Welcome to In the Know with Erin, a podcast bringing you information and inspiration from people in all walks of life. This is the Ruby Jubilee episode. Hey everyone, and welcome to In the Know with Erin. Today we have a very special episode. First of all, it's the first episode in over a year. I took a long break after dealing with some mental health issues, and you can read about that in my recent blog. But I'm back, and this episode, which I appropriately titled Ruby Jubilee, is an episode completely dedicated to all things turning 40. Now, I turned 40 on August 9th of this year and thought this would be a fun episode to celebrate that. This episode's main focus will also be on a special blog post that I wrote called 40 Things I Learned Before Turning 40, which I was inspired to write after thinking about some of the most important things I learned over the past 4 decades. With all that said, I wanted to now introduce you to 4 very special guests. I asked them to join me to help celebrate this episode, and it's actually really cool because there's a reason I chose these specific people. Each one met me in each decade of my life and were and still are very important to me. We are all also wearing our red, which is the color for the Ruby Jubilee theme. And for those who don't know, Ruby Jubilee is what they call this celebration of a 40th anniversary, including a birthday, and the color associated with it is a ruby red. So we thought it'd be fun to show off that color during this episode. So back to welcoming my guests. We're going to start with my guest for the 1984 to 1994 decade of my life, and that is my wonderful cousin, Robin. Robin's dad and my mom were siblings, and since she's older than me, she knew me since the day I was born. So it's definitely appropriate that she represents this decade, and she's a gem for agreeing to do so. So, hey Robin, I'm so happy you're here.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
All right, so next we have a guest representing the 1994 to 2000 decade, and that is my friend Jessica. Jessica and I met on the first day of high school in 1999 and have been friends ever since. She's involved in some of my best memories, including rebelliously eating chicken legs in class, having adventures in all kinds of places, including Los Angeles and New York City. So, hey to Jessica. I love that you're here.
Thank you for having me, and I can't wait to talk about all of our shenanigans,
They're
actually.
definitely memorable. All right, next on the guest list is a guest representing the 2004 to 2014 decade, and it is my amazing friend Stephanie. Stephanie and I met while working on President Obama's re-election campaign back in 2012. She was one of the first people I met after moving to LA, and she's been there for me through many ups and downs. She's a beautiful, jewelry-loving, tell-it-like-it-is, kind-hearted individual, and I'm so happy she's here. So, hey to Stephanie. I can always count on you for being wherever I ask you to be, so I'm glad you're here.
This is bizarre. I've never done this before, but I'm glad I'm here. Thanks for having me.
Finally, we have the guest who represents the 2014 to 2024 decade, and that is my awesome friend Lori. Now, Lori and I met while working at a job together. I believe it was technically in 2013, but we didn't really become friends until 2014. What's ironic and amazing is that Lori was with me 10 years ago when I turned 30 years old. I had just done some intense self-healing work, and we decided to spend the eve before my birthday at the Santa Monica beach, where we burned letters to let go of our rocky past, and we vowed to make our futures brighter. So it was a beautiful, incredible experience, and she's back again with me to celebrate 40. So hey to Lori, I'm so grateful you're here.
I'm happy to be here, and I remember the Cookie Monster cake we had for your 30th
Yes.
birthday.
All right, so those are my beautiful guests, and let's get started with this fun episode. So, I'm not the only one turning 40 this year. There are many other people and things, including movies, restaurants, and more, celebrating their own Ruby Jubilees as well. And I'm going to go through some right now before we get into the blog post. So, movies turning 40 this year. You're going to recognize a lot of these, I bet. 16 Candles, Ghostbusters, The Karate Kid, Oxford Blues, Footloose, Revenge of the Nerds, Hot Dog the Movie, Grandview, USA, The Company of Wolves, Firestarter, Against All Odds, Firstborn, Falling in Love, Once Upon a Time in America, Electric Dreams, Dreamscape, No Small Affair, Stop Making Sense, Swing Shift, The Initiation, Cloak and Dagger, Places in the Heart, Hockey Night, Bad Manners, The Woman in Red, Hard Bodies, Beat Street, The Hotel New Hampshire, The Natural, Night of the Comet, Monster Dog, The Last Starfighter, Body Double, The Neverending Story, Iceman, Paris, Texas, Where the Boys Are 84, Reckless, Dune, Purple Rain, Moscow on the Hudson, Amadeus, Tank, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Birdie, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Police Academy, Beverly Hills Cop, Gremlins, Romancing the Stone, Breakin', Tightrope, Bachelor Party, Red Dawn, The Terminator, All of Me, The Muppets Take Manhattan, Children of the Corn, and this is Spinal Tap. So all those movies are 40 this year.
Karate Kid is one of my favorites.
Oh, really?
Must say, yep. Closely followed by Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I watched Karate Kid as a kid. All right. Now, next are TV shows turning 40. Now, remember, these are not every movie or every TV show. It's just some of them, the most prominent ones. TV shows turning 40: Airwolf, Charles in Charge, The Cosby Show, Heathcliff, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, Miami Vice, Muppet Babies, Murder, She Wrote, Night Court, Punky Brewster, Rainbow Bright, Riptide, Rocky Road, Santa Barbara, Snorks, V, Voltron, and Who's the Boss. Okay, and then we have songs turning 40. When Doves Cry by Prince, and that was number 1 when I was born on the Billboard charts. What's Love Got to Do with It by Tina Turner. Footloose by Kenny Loggins. Against All Odds by Phil Collins. Jump by Van Halen, Ghostbusters by Ray Parker Jr., Missing You by John Waite, Let's Hear It for the Boy by Denise Williams, Dancing in the Dark by Bruce Springsteen, The Reflex by Duran Duran, Self Control by Laura Branigan, Let's Go Crazy by Prince and the Revolution, Hold Me Now by Thompson Twins, I Just Called to Say I Love You by Stevie Wonder, Somebody's Watching Me by Rockwell, I Can Dream About You by Dan Hartman, The Glamorous Life by Sheila E., Oh Sherry by Steve Perry, Drive by The Cars, Hard Habit to Break by Chicago, The Warrior by Scandal, If Ever You're in My Arms Again by Peebo Bryson, Automatic by Pointer Sisters, To All the Girls I've Loved Before by Julio Iglesias and Willie Nelson, Caribbean Queen by Billy Ocean, I Want a New Drug by Huey Lewis and the News, Infatuation by Rod Stewart, Almost Paradise by Mike Reno and Ann Wilson, Legs by ZZ Top, State of Shock by the Jacksons, Love Somebody by Rick Springfield, Miss Me Blind by Culture Club, If This Is It by Huey Lewis and the News, Head Over Heels by the Go-Go's, Dancing in the Sheets by Shalimar, When You Close Your Eyes by Night Ranger, and Rock Me Tonight by Billy Squier. Now we have restaurants turning 40. Amy's Ice Creams, which is only in Texas, that's turning 40. Cafe Express, also in Texas. Champs, Culver's, Double Dave's Pizza Works, which is in Austin, Texas. Ezel's Chicken, which is in Seattle, and that's Oprah Winfrey's favorite kind of chicken. Gotham Bar and Grill in New York City. Hot and Now in Holt, Michigan. Hot Lips Pizza in Oregon. Juan Pollo in Southern California, Mandalay, which is in San Francisco, New York Fries, which is in Canada, Papa John's, Rita's Italian Ice, Vietnam Restaurant in Philadelphia, Buffalo Wings and Rings in Cincinnati. And then we have some popular food or snacks turning 40, and that's the Costco hot dog, Velveeta shells and cheese, and Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal.
Had to go with the Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I will think about it all night.
You still like it?
It is my guilty pleasure. I'll eat a whole box. I will eat an entire box in one sitting. No shame.
Yeah, I haven't had that in years, honestly. I'm not a big cereal person, but that one is good when you're in the mood for cinnamon, I guess. I used to like Reese's Puffs. We're going on a different topic. Okay, we have some other random products turning 40, and that's Air Jordans, the Birkin bag, Boyd's Bears, the Clapper, Depends adult diapers, extra chewing gum, HP LaserJet printer, and Power Wheels. So random. All right, now some significant events that happened 40 years ago in 1984. We have the Super Bowl 18 at Tampa Stadium in Florida. Los Angeles Raiders won 38-9 against Washington Redskins. Apple's Macintosh computer goes on sale. Michael Jackson suffered second-degree burns while making a Pepsi commercial. The first healthy baby born via embryo transfer, which is a fertilized egg transferred from one woman to another, is born. The first untethered spacewalk is made during NASA's STS-41-B space mission. The Olympic Winter Games take place in Sarajevo, Yugoslavia. Virgin Atlantic Airlines has its first flight from London to Newark. The National Minimum Drinking Age Act is passed in America, making the national legal drinking age 21. The Summer Olympic Games take place in Los Angeles, California. Mary Lou Retton becomes the first American gymnast woman to win an Olympic gold medal. Britain's Alec Jeffreys develops genetic fingerprinting. The Detroit Tigers win the Baseball World Series, defeating the San Diego Padres. Does anybody remember that? Robin, Stephanie, you guys are older. You remember any of those things?
Every one of those.
Yeah, you worked the Olympics that year, right?
I did.
That's
I
awesome.
did. I was in Santa Barbara where rowing and crew were,
Wow.
and it was awesome. Awesome. They had taken over UCSB, and we used to call the little village that they had there Tupperware Town because everything was plastic. So we'd go to Tupperware Town all day and all night. I worked security there. So we
Wow.
got to meet a lot of the athletes and stuff like that. It was really, really cool.
That's amazing. And then it's the Summer Olympics are going to be in LA again in 4 years, right?
Yes, and I'm definitely going to see if I can do the same thing I did before. Only in LA this time and not in Santa Barbara.
Nice. All right. Finally, we have some notable people born in 1984. They're turning 40 as well, if they haven't already. And those people are LeBron James, Scarlett Johansson, Katy Perry, Avril Lavigne, Jelly Roll, Mark Zuckerberg, Prince Harry, Mandy Moore, Kid Cudi, Trey Songz, T-Pain, Calvin Harris, Olivia Wilde, Aubrey O'Day, Ollie Murs, Gina Rodriguez, Aubrey Plaza, Omarion, Ben Shapiro, America Ferrera, Jack Antonoff, Carmelo Anthony, Fantasia Barrino, Patrick Stump, French Montana, Kelly Osbourne, Megan McCain, and Lindsey Vaughn. Okay, so are we all in the 40-year vibes now?
I'm ready for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to get into the blog post that I wrote called 40 Things I Learned Before Turning 40. Now, listeners can read this blog post on the blog page of my website, eringlow.com. I was inspired to write this post when I was thinking about some of the most important things that I learned over the past 40 years, and I'm sharing it with the hopes that others who read it can either relate or they can take something from it that helps them in their own lives. So my lovely 4 guests and I are going to go through each lesson I included in my list, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. So the listeners can follow along again if you go to the blog page on my website, eringlow.com, and click the title that says 40 Things I Learned Before Turning 40. Okay, so we're going to go in order of the decades each guest represents when we're reading these. And we're going to start off with Robin, and we're going to end with me when taking turns. So, Robin, whenever you're ready, you can start with number 1.
Okay. True friends will be there for you during hard times, no matter the convenience. Over the past couple of years, I lost my mom and beloved pet and was then laid off from my longtime job shortly after moving across the country. I was feeling at my lowest and wasn't exactly pleasant to be around. Although I normally do well on my own, at one point I needed human contact and reached out to people for help. This is something I'm uncomfortable doing. The ones that showed up were not always the ones I thought would. Let's just say distance and or time isn't a factor when it comes to being there for the ones you love and care about if they're in their darkest moments.
Throughout the past couple years, which were really difficult, probably the most difficult in my life, the people that were there just were people I didn't expect, and the people I expected to be there were not there in the end. They would promise to be there, or they'd say, "Yeah, we're gonna come see you, we're gonna do this," and then when the time came, they were like, either just wouldn't contact me or came up with some excuse. So I don't know if any of you have had that experience.
Oh, for certain.
I have been that experience, like, when my kids were young,
Mhm.
overpromising my presence in my ear and my heart and my arm, and then just either completely forgetting about things or just not having the time for it. So I've been on both sides of that, which suck equally, by the way.
But it's interesting because it shows that even the people that are on the other side, it's not necessarily that they have bad intentions. It's just that they don't realize how important it is to not
Yes.
make promises like that and then let someone down because that will trigger that person's, make whatever they're going through even worse because you're like, well, I'm not worth your time. Whereas a lot of times, if they just said, I can't be there for you, or, I can't make any promises, it would be better, even though it may seem bad in the moment. And they're like, well, I want to help her, but I know I'm not going to. So I think people need to understand that more. And like, was there a moment where you realized that when your kids were a little bit older, or did you know that all along and just kind of had a hard
No.
time no?
No, but they came from a period of personal growth when I realized I was probably unintentionally being a crappy friend and I didn't wanna be that.
Mhm.
Uh, but it was, after having my children and seeing the way things affect them, and then kinda paying attention to the world around you, like how your actions and your choices and your words and how others affect you as well. But it really takes a great deal of self-reflection to be like, "Maybe I'm the problem." And a lot of people I feel cannot do that, and it's so important to your personal growth to be like, "Well, that was kind of crappy," or "That was really good, and you should do more of this, and this was not so great."
Right.
But on the other side of that, I'm gonna say that I've kind of recognized in myself recently, it's like an epiphany I had that, if you will, my toxic trait is getting upset with people when they don't do what I would do. Like, I would do this for
Yeah.
you. And then when you don't do it back for me, I get so pissed.
Mhm,
But when I think about it, I'm like, you know what? That's not on them. That's on me because, that's just who they are. And if they're not going to do like what I would do, I can't get mad at them for it. Maybe I should look at myself and say, okay, you're doing too much. Step back and worry about yourself more than worrying about what other people are going to do for
mhm,
Mhm.
you or be there for you. So it's, because I usually will go like way beyond what I should for other people, even sacrificing myself. So it's one of those things that I need to like kind of not get upset with other people when they don't do the same because they're probably being healthier than I am,
by
by
drawing the boundary by
paying
drawing the
attention to
boundary, yep.
themselves. Or yeah, exactly.
Right, and I think
So
there's a difference between people who say, "Yeah, I'm going to do this," and then don't, as opposed to just don't do it. And they never promise you that, never.
Mhm,
yeah, and but I think also too, you got to be careful with that as well because like sometimes just like a flip answer to something, oh yeah, yeah, I'll be there, and you don't really know how much it means to that person. You kind of think it's more of a casual,
Yeah,
just a response, like, oh yeah, we'll get together, we'll get to, we always say we'll get together, and like who does,
right.
Everybody has
Mhm.
things, and so I'm personally anyway trying not to take that stuff as personal because it's just not good for anybody, and it's ruined a few friendships, really. So
Yeah, there's something else in this list that it talks about not taking things personal too like that. So, yeah, no,
yeah.
that's true though. I think too when I, needed people, I live alone, you have to remember, and like it was right after I moved too when I needed people the most, and I was I was dealing with a lot. I was dealing with the loss of my mom, I was dealing with the loss of my pet, I was dealing with a new move across the country. I was just having this new life. Then there were tons of other family members, as Robin knows, that just like a whole generation wiped out in a matter of months. Like
Mhm.
our
Yeah.
your dad and my mom's siblings were like just one after the other. It's crazy. It's a weird feeling when you think of all the people who were the adults when you were a kid, and most of them are gone. And now you're in that
Yeah.
position almost. I'm the youngest still out of my siblings, but it's
Yeah.
still
Yeah, we're the old ones now.
it's just crazy. That when they say, "Oh, you know who your true friends are," when they show up, it does tend to be true because it's like, "Wow, you're here for me?" Like, Stephanie is one of them that was there for me. She flew across the country on, like, what, a week's notice when she saw how depressed I was, and she stayed with me for, like, a week. She was the last one I'd expect because there were people I asked that were, like, a couple hours away, and they didn't show up, that could, take a bus or drive here really quickly, and they just didn't, so I'll never forget that, but that's one of the reasons, she's a great friend, and I'll always say that about Stephanie. We have our disagreements, and we're very different people, like, a lot of the time, but just because 'cause you're different doesn't mean you can't be good friends to each other.
That's true.
Jessica, you're next.
True that.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone finds flaws in themselves, no matter how perfect they may appear. We are our own worst critics. How many times have we heard that from somewhere? Well, it's pretty much true. Unless you are 100% confident in yourself 100% of the time, we are always putting ourselves under a magnifying glass, literally and metaphorically. Whether it's a physical trait and or something we said or did, we're always thinking we could look or do better. While constructive criticism is healthy, we always want to improve throughout our life's learning process. Attacking yourself for every little thing you're not satisfied with is not. Use those flaws to know what you want and don't want and make a difference. Don't go against yourself. Be your biggest champion.
It's true. I as anybody knows me, I am really bad with that stuff, with the confidence, with the self, you
Mhm.
know. I like overanalyze myself. Like Stephanie knows, I'll see like a little dot on my face or a hair out of place, and I'll be like, "Oh my god, I look terrible." And she's like, "Nobody's gonna notice that."
It sounds really terrible, but we're all adults because we're all like 40. But I learned this like nobody cares what you're wearing, how you look, what you're doing, what you're like nobody like you are in someone's passing life, like you are literally like, you're only at if you're gonna go and you got a hair out of place, now you're gonna, go and be on TV. Those people that are criticizing that hair out of place aren't listening to the substance in what you're giving. So, you
Exactly.
gotta measure people's intent, really.
Exactly. But I think when it's us, we're like, well, we know we're responsible for ourselves, so we want to make sure we represent ourselves in the best way. And if something is amiss or something goes wrong, we're like, well, we should have done better. We could have controlled that. Whereas someone else, you don't really put that much pressure on them.
No such thing as control.
Yes. You shoot the arrow, you don't control where it lands. The wind can blow when you just did not expect it, and boom, your whole day could be ruined.
Yep. All right, Stephanie, you're next.
You can't make people like you. If someone chooses not to like you, it won't change, no matter how hard you try. This includes both family and friends. I've learned this one the hard way. If you feel you did something wrong, try and make it right as best you can. But don't waste time on someone who's already has a narrative of you that only benefits them and puts them in a more positive light, especially if in your heart you know their narrative is not true. There are people who don't like you for personal reasons that may or may not share. And then there are people that don't want to like you. So they don't know the difference. This is incredibly true. I had to learn this one the hard way. You find out that you go above and beyond when you're a people pleaser, and if it's not reciprocated or it comes back to you in a different way, uh, you're devastated. You're freaking out and, it's a pain in the butt. I would do my thing and, it wasn't always reciprocated. I found out early, very early, either they like me or they don't. And if they don't, c'est la vie.
Mhm.
I don't have the time, especially at my age, to be bothered with whether you do or you don't. So I got over it. it's a difficult concept for a lot of people to, it's like, "Oh, they don't like me. Oh, wow." And then you find out it's something usually very innocuous or whatever. Hey, after a while, you don't really care. It's like if they don't feel that there's enough of you or your personality or whatever to be in your life and to share the phenomenal person that you are, you don't have to be bothered with that.
Mhm.
Mm-mm. Tell them to go away.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and I think I've had a hard time with trying to do what I can if I sense a little bit of hesitancy from someone that I'm trying to impress.
Yeah, you've got that people pleasing thing. Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, no.
What I learned this year in particular, this is especially true with family. I'm just gonna say that because like you can try to be yourself, and if these people have this perspective of you, and they don't even really know you as an adult, but they have a perspective of you, and then they accuse you of things, and you're like, what? Losing both parents, it shows you a lot about your family that you wouldn't know otherwise, especially when my mom was the buffer. It's like people say things and they don't care, and I don't know. I've just come to the conclusion that there's certain people in my family and friends too, but they wouldn't be friends then. But I'm talking like if you have family, you can't not have the family you have. But there's certain people in my family who just don't want to like me, and I've come to that conclusion, and I'm okay with that because they don't even really know me. So it's hurtful, but it's like if they're not even gonna try to know me, and they already have this narrative of me and they're telling everybody all this stuff, it's what can you do? I mean, you can't do much. You just gotta keep going and hopefully the truth will come out and that's all.
Are you really concerned about our family liking you?
Yeah, our family
I
is
mean, honestly,
dramatic. Yeah.
I don't know. I just accept that not everybody is born with the ability to like me. So,
Yeah.
Like, it's okay that people do not like you. It's okay not to be everybody's cup of tea. Like, that's okay.
yeah,
Right.
it's like a
Mhm.
buffet. You go down the buffet and you pass over the thing you don't
Exactly.
want.
Like,
And I
Yeah.
don't want you, I don't
I
want you.
I
That's it.
I volunteer with a
But just be your
yes,
vibe,
your vibe
you
and
know.
find your tribe. I volunteer with a girl, and we do not see eye to eye on a single thing, a single thing. And if we did not have to speak outside of our organization, we would not. But we function together as 2 adults with the same goal, but absolutely would not let her listen to my music collection, and she absolutely would not take me on a trip. Like, it's fine. Everybody doesn't have to like
Right, and
you.
it doesn't mean you're less worthy if someone doesn't
Correct.
like you.
Correct.
But we can convince ourselves of that sometimes, and it's not good because, again, there's people, like, even when you look at like a celebrity or something, there's certain people that are going to be attracted to certain celebrities for certain reasons. It doesn't mean that they're better than the other. It's just like, oh, I like this person because of that, and I like this because it
Correct.
represents me. It represents
Mhm.
what I like, what I'm inspired by, what I can relate to. So there's like someone out there for everyone.
Correct.
Personal preference.
Okay, Lori.
All right. Number 4. Look within when it comes to some of your darkest memories. I once thought all the bad memories I had of moments with others were bad because of something they did. Although that can ring true for some situations, it's not always the case. Sometimes my own issues, self doubt, shame, fear were part of the problem. Recognizing patterns is the scariest and coolest thing you can do in your life. It sheds light on your biggest troubles and makes way for change.
Yep, it's all about the patterns. When you recognize
Mhm.
patterns you have, and I learned a lot about this through self healing books, through therapy, all of that. When you see a pattern, it's different people, it's different situations, but it's the same pattern. And you notice that and you're like, that's crazy. And you don't realize it when you're in it until you learn more about yourself and what you do and why you are the way you are. And then it's kind of like, okay, I see what I was doing there and why I keep doing
Mhm.
it and how I keep doing it so I'm not, stopping the cycle. So
Ooh.
those things are going to keep happening. Patterns are crazy.
Definitely. Yeah, I've definitely had moments of being like, okay, I'm the drama. Like, I'm causing this. I'm the consistent thing in all of this.
Yeah. But when you do, it shows your maturity, I think. because you realize that you're only
Mhm.
human and you're not. And I think I read a book too. I think it was the guy who wrote the Four Agreements. He wrote another book that said people often say, "Oh, I'm only human," as if being human is a terrible thing. So even by saying that, you're kind of giving yourself less credit than you should. He is like, "Yeah, our humanity is imperfect, but being imperfect is perfect for you." And it's that kind of thing. Like, yeah, we are human. We're told what to do by society half of the time. Then the other half we're told by our parents, but our parents don't always know everything. It's, and then the rest is just what we're influenced by. And I think you got to recognize when you're like, "Whoa, I made a mistake," or maybe I should have handled this a little differently. And that is hard to admit, but everybody should have those moments in life. It's not like people make the right decisions all the time. We don't come out of the womb and know everything to do. Except for Robin. Robin's perfect.
I am pretty close anyway. That's why doesn't everybody like me?
Right? I know. It's their problem. They're missing out. Okay, number 5. Attachment theory is everything. My love of self help books is what led me to learn all about attachment theory, the idea that we all fit into one or more of researched attachment theory categories based on our childhood experiences. These categories lead to patterns when it comes to our relationships in life. I highly recommend the books Attached, The New Science of Adult Attachment and How It Can Help You Find and Keep Love by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller, and Securely Attached by Eli Hardwood. They both helped me learn all about my attachment patterns, and I am definitely an anxious avoidant, and how to change them into a healthier, more secure way of life. So, shout out to Lori and Jessica, but Lori is the first one who introduced me to the attachment book back in the day, 10 years ago. And she's like, "You gotta read this, you gotta read this." And I read it and I'm like, "This is insane." And then Jessica recently got me on another one that's similar, and it's like more of a workbook one. And I'm actually still in the middle of that. And I've noticed I've been getting better as I've been doing it.
Yes.
Like, even, yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, it's just because you recognize it.
Mhm.
I think half the battle is recognizing your attachment pattern and then saying, "Okay, what can I do to help this?" And not blaming yourself and not blaming others, but just knowing what to do and say, "Okay, like Stephanie knows this but about me." But it's like when I'm feeling this overwhelming feeling of, "Oh my god, this is too much for me," and this is making me feel less independent and I can't deal with this even though this person that I'm dating is great and there's nothing wrong with them and they're everything I want. It's kind of like, well, I'm going to lose my independence and but at the same time I'm scared to lose them, so I can't get them too close, and the more intimate it becomes, the worse it gets because you're like, "Oh my god, more intimacy means closer, means attachment, means you're going to lose them and it's going to hurt." And it's like losing my dad at a very young age also really affected me with the male relationship I've learned. So it's hard for me to really trust a male that they're not just going to up and leave or something bad's going to happen to them. So I've had a lot of difficulty in my relationships because of this. And I've realized that. But I'm also fiercely independent because that's how I learned growing up. As a child, I was the youngest of all my siblings. So it was almost like I was an only child because I would, by the time I was God, like 10 or maybe 12, they were all out of the house. I have 5 siblings. They were all out of the house because they were a lot older. My brother and I are the closest in age, and we're still 7 years apart. So, it was like I grew up an only child. I would play by myself a lot, be in my room, find things to entertain me, find things to inspire me. I'd have friends over once in a while, but and have my nieces who were close in age to me, but it was still hard. And I think that kind of said, well, the only person I can rely on is myself, so I can't get close to anybody because they're gonna let me down or they're just, not gonna be there when I need them. But I don't know, do you guys wanna share what you guys are? What kind of attachment?
That attachment book is so important to everybody's life. The journal is like I'm almost done with it, but I've only ever purchased 2 books off followers on Instagram. One is Eli's book. She's been like my therapist in raising my children by fixing my damn self, really. And then I bought a book on preparedness, on how to store water, which I thought was very important. I got more out of the Securely Attached book than I did on how to store water. You can better cope with yourself in your life and the things life throws at you when you already know how you're going to react to them, and that it's not really I mean, it is a choice, but your instinct to react this way or that way, if you stop and think about it, like, "Oh, what happens if I don't react that way?" "Oh, nothing." Like, you're fine.
Yeah, and for people out there who don't know the attachment theory, it's basically saying you fall into one of how many is it categories attachment? Four. You can fall in one or multiple,
Right.
depending on what you are. But it's how you treat close friendships, how you treat relationships, especially. Everybody wants to be what they call a secure attachment, and that's when you know who you are, you know what you want, you meet somebody else and they know the same thing, but it's very complicated too because you can be a certain kind of attachment style and then the other person can be another one and then that'll complicate things, but the secure one is the one everybody wants to be. Then you have the anxious one, which is you're anxious about losing people, which I have a lot. I have two. You're anxious about losing people, you're anxious about just things that could go wrong. If somebody doesn't answer you for a certain amount of time, you're like, "Oh my god, they don't like me," blah, 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 stuff like that. And then avoidant, which I'm also, which is when you get too close to someone, you push them away because you're just scared of getting close and what that means and what could go wrong. And you're independent a lot with that. And then the other one is what is it? Lori would know.
I was gonna say anxious avoidant, like, if you
Right.
have both.
When you have both. Okay.
But I don't remember exactly from this book because I feel like now I've read so many different, like, attachment theory type thing.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, "Okay, some of them say this, some of them say that." So I'm like, now I don't even remember specifically what this one said. But, because I always just think of it as, like, those are the 3, and then it's like you might sway one way or the other.
Right. Yeah, you basically fit into one or more of an attachment style. So everybody has one or two based on how you grew up, based on your environmental factors, what happened to you, all of that. Do you know what yours is, Jessica?
Anxious avoidant.
So you're the same as me? Okay.
I mean, our traits, I think, like, you have a few more extremes that I have, but I have done a great deal of self-work over the past 3 years, and that doesn't mean, like, I'm better. I still feel those things, but I'm not gonna act on what's on the inside because I know, you're not
Mhm.
coming from anxiety, absolutely not. Also, though, depending on where I am in my cycle, I might cry about it.
Yeah.
I might just do that.
And then Lori, do you wanna share what you are?
Yeah, I'm definitely super secure now, but I was very anxious, like, especially around the time when you and I had met.
Yeah.
And it, like, really I had no idea. I'd been dating people for, like, years and years, but it wasn't until I started dating someone who was avoidant that I learned how anxious I was.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe you were the anxious attached, where you could not properly anxiously attach because they were avoidant. So you're doing that, they're doing that.
Yeah, like, and it was like this yo-yo. I was like, "Why do I keep, like, going back to this person? Like, I don't understand." Like, I just had never experienced anything like that before, because the people I'd been with before were secure.
Mhm.
But, like, coupled with an avoidant, it's like, whoa, all my stuff came up, and it was like, I had to do so much healing work over, like, so many years to get to a place of being like, "Nah, I am secure now."
Mhm.
Yeah, I mine came out when I dated a secure person, and he knew exactly what he wanted. And he could clearly tell I didn't know what I wanted, even though I thought I wanted him, but he could see right through that, and once I told him, "Oh, let's wait a little bit to see what happens," he's like, nope, you gotta work on yourself." And that kinda,
Mhm.
like, set off everything for me, and I'm like, "How could I lose this guy when he's so nice? He's everything I've been looking for, yet somehow I'm still messing it up. What's going on?" Robin can go next if no one has anything to say.
All right. You can't plan everything. Oh boy, was this a hard one for me to accept. In fact, I'm still accepting it. Planning brings ease and puts my anxieties to rest, but unfortunately, life is unpredictable. I keep doing that. And things will come up that you have no control over. Let it be and adjust accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bad planner, it's bad. I mean, I feel like if I don't plan something, Like, it's almost like I have to prep for everything that could go wrong instead of just saying, "Listen, there are some things I don't have control over. I'm gonna plan this, but if it doesn't work that way, that's okay." I know that now, and I try to do that now, and I think I'm getting better at it, but, like, before I was like, "Oh my god, it has to go this way, it has to go this way," and then the second something is out of place, it's like, "What?" Like, and then I start becoming all crazy with people, and I'm like, "No."
When you said you were a bad planner, I'm like, "Sorry?"
Well, I mean bad, like, let me
Mhm.
rephrase that. I am very bad with not planning.
Yes,
Yeah.
You're not spontaneous.
But I mean, I could be spontaneous when
Mm-mm.
it's something that I don't care about that
Mm-mm.
much. No, I've been spontaneous in, like, silly things. I don't know, I guess yeah, like, if I was sitting on the couch, like, just wearing my PJs and then someone's like, "Hey, you wanna go out tonight?" I'm like, "Oh my god," like, I'm like, "Yeah, I do wanna go out, but this is now I gotta get prepared, and oh my god, I gotta mentally prepare, I have to dress up, I have" and instead of just saying, "Sure," and then just throw on clothes, be comfortable, like, no, I that's and then I'm like, "Well, I don't think I'm gonna go out because all this is driving me crazy." So it's not that I don't
yes.
wanna go out, it's that again, it's that perfection you need oh my god, everything has to be planned and great, and you throw it out of whack, you're like, "Whoa, what happens if something happens I don't know or and I wasn't
Like, if
prepared
you've
for this?"
planned for Thai dinner and then someone says, "Actually, let's get Mexican instead," you're like, "What?
Right, I mean,
Mexican?
that
But
that
I'm really
just
looking
yeah, that's
forward
not
to
as
food."
that's not as serious, but, yeah, I mean, it's not even like 'cause I've had people tell me, "Well, fine, we'll get that," or whatever, something silly like that, because they could see how it makes me but it's not that I'm, like, don't want them to choose, it's that I've already planned it in my head, so I'm
Correct.
comfortable with the idea, and then the second it's twisted, causes that anxiety. So it has nothing to do
Mhm.
with the person or what we're doing, it's more of like that. Yeah.
It's the loss of control, which we don't really have at any
Mhm.
point in our lives anyway over anything,
We don't, yeah, it's
really.
true.
My turn. Don't let the guilt or what ifs ruin your peace of mind. This has been particularly hard for me. When difficult moments lead to an unwanted outcome, I tend to think back at what I could have done differently to make the outcome a more pleasant one. The truth is that hindsight will always leave an option for a better outcome. But you did what you could with what you knew and what you had at a time. Maybe things would have been different, but maybe not. Sometimes there is no way to know, and that's okay. It unfolded as it did, and I have chosen to believe that what is happening was supposed to happen. Look for the meaning. Life isn't always about winning and or keeping people and things forever. It's about being filled with gratitude for the opportunities, navigating the lessons, and using it all to grow.
Yeah, this came out a lot with my mom and my pet because my mom not so much. I mean, I was like thinking, "Oh my god, what if we took her to a different hospital? What if we did that and what would she have lived longer? What if they didn't give her this medication? What if they did like it was like, oh, it's terrible to think those things. And then with my pet, of course, because I'm responsible for him. He was older. I mean, everyone knows I love my guinea pigs, and he was older, and he was 8 years old, which is older for a guinea pig, and he was starting to slow down. But I'm still thinking because he ended up going downhill in the middle of the night when his vet wasn't open, and I had to take him to whatever vet I could, which I thought wasn't the greatest vet, but it's like, I mean, you can only do what you can do. And I think I just beat myself up a lot for those types of things, because 'cause I'm like, "Oh my god, what if I did this one little thing different?" You know, I coulda saved his life, or I coulda did this, or this one's really hard for me because I it's hard for me to know when to let go and just let it be. I like where that line is drawn, but I think I'm getting a little better at it, but it's still difficult.
I tell you that a lot. I always tell you, don't play the
Mhm.
what if game
Mhm.
because once you get that in there, it's really hard to get you out.
I know, it's
You're
one
like,
of
no,
my
no, no.
yeah.
We don't open
It's
that
one of the
door.
worst ones I have, it's that one's really hard. I'll admit even to this day, it's even though
Mhm.
I'm very aware of, that I'm like that, it's still hard to control it because it's like you're trying to control not control. We can only do so much, you just gotta kinda know when to be like, "Alright, well, it's up to the universe."
Mhm.
You did what you could with the knowledge and what you had at that time.
Okay. The right people find you at the right time. No matter where I was living or what I was going through in life, certain people who I didn't know I needed at the time ended up being some of the most important people on my journey. They got me through various challenges, situations, and most of the time, I found myself in their presence by pure chance. Learn to trust you're right where you're supposed to be and around the people meant for that part of your life. This is kind of like I learned and tried to teach my son who's challenged that things and people are transitory. And no matter how much you like them or love them, sometimes they go away and they're not always going to be there. And while it's very difficult for you to deal with them not being in your life, it's not your fault. You're not the bad one. You didn't make them go away. It's a hard concept for some people to deal with. But I think as I explain things to him over time, he has come to do better with that concept. We had a string of deaths in the family, and it was incredibly hard for him. He no longer had his either of his grandmothers or his great grandmother and his grandmother and his grandfather. And it was like he completely shut down and totally blew off school and everything like that. And I think that after a lot of, as we say down south, pet the cat, it's like he started to come around, but he somehow felt, I guess, transferred that it was his fault that they were no longer there. And I'm like, no, 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 that's not what that is. You have to know that people and things, your favorite jacket. Well, when your favorite jacket wears out, you got to get a new one. Not that you're going to get a new grandma or grandpa, but you have the memories, as long as you have their memories or memories of them and keep them close to you in your heart and in your mind, picture books and things like that to remind you of the happy times when they were in your life, it makes it easier to cope with loss.
Yeah.
And loss is, everybody deals with that a lot different. Some people just don't deal with it at all. I know several people like that. They're just like, oh, that person's no longer there. Oh, okay. But they just like, I don't see it. I don't see it. And I always thought that was kind of weird, but I'm like, okay. I think that if you take the time to let people know how you feel when they're around, you'll feel a lot better about yourself when they're no longer there.
That's definitely true about loss and things like that. I also felt this way about just friends when you realize friends just come and go, and you got to learn to let them go if they don't see a need for you in their life, or they don't want, not even a need but a want. You just got to be like, "Hey,
Mhm.
just let it go. Don't chase them. Don't." I mean,
Mhm.
if you truly didn't do anything wrong and they're just no longer talking to you, or you reach out, they don't reach back, I mean, what can you do? There's nothing you can do. You just got to learn and trust that they're just not meant to be in your life at that time.
Mhm. Exactly. And if you can figure out a constructive way to deal with that, then that's half the battle right there.
Okay.
Friends can be family. Yes, family shares your DNA, but that doesn't always mean they'll give you what you need. It also doesn't mean they know best. Sometimes the ones who choose to be in your life are the ones who know more about you, then become the ones you can count on most. It's about a willingness and not an obligation. I definitely relate to this. Yeah, I mean, I'm not particularly close with many people in my family. And many times over, my best friends have just basically become like a sister to me, or I have become really close to like a partner's family and just kind of been a part of their family. And so, yeah, this has been super, super key in my life.
I think friends do tend to know you better if you're not close with your family, because a lot of people are like, well, my family comes first. My family's everything, this, that. But it doesn't necessarily mean your family knows you the best, especially in my case. Because again, I grew up the youngest. So you have to remember a lot of my siblings and cousins, and I'm not close with them because we didn't grow up together. And, so they don't really know me as well as people that I talk to every day, but I mean, doesn't mean I love them any less or anything like that, it's just they may not know me
Mhm.
best. I wouldn't
No, they
choose
don't,
them
right.
to know. Yeah.
They only know a version of you that they had for a very short time.
Mhm. Alright. Don't be afraid to ask. Everyone needs help at some point in their life, whether it be financially, emotionally, or physically. I'm still learning it's okay to be vulnerable and look to others for things I need when there's no other way. It doesn't mean I'm a burden. And yeah, this is a tough one for me too because I have a very difficult time asking people for help, even my family, especially now that my mom has passed on because she was the one I would go to if I had to go to somebody. And I just don't feel comfortable going to a lot of other people, like, not even my siblings, because they all have their own families, and I'm like, I don't wanna interfere, I don't wanna be that annoying little sister who needs something when they have their own families, but, I mean, they tell me, "No, it's okay, you can come to us," but it's like, it still doesn't take away that feeling, and I'm trying to get better at it. And again, when you lose both parents, that feeling tends to come up, at least for me it is, where you feel like you're nobody's baby anymore, you're nobody's kid anymore, so you can't go to them. And anybody you go to now is just somebody who was in your life, not by choice, because your parents chose to have you, but they didn't choose to be your sibling or your whatever.
I get that, but when I came to see you in New York, I came with the in my mindset that I was coming to your rescue, and it was really, really difficult because you didn't want me to do anything,
Yeah. Mhm.
you know? I was like, "Okay, I am here for you." I was ready to cook, clean, just stand there and stare at you, whatever. And then it's like, "No, you don't get to do any of that." It was hard for me, just like I know it was very difficult for you. You retreated to a point where it was almost painful to watch you in this state, uh, but nothing I could do or say. So I just said, "Well, the only thing I can do is just to be. I will be here." And at some point while I'm here, the 10 days that I was there was like, we came to a small detente, which is actually nice. So I said, "Well, you got to take the win wherever you get it."
Yeah.
So, you know, you didn't make it easy. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, I was glad I could come. I was a little twisted because I couldn't stay longer because I knew you needed that. Other than that, I was like, well, like I said, you got to take the win where you can. And the fact that I was able to go was a big thing.
Yeah, that's
So,
completely fine.
you know,
You definitely tried, but it was hard. Yeah. It's like, "I'll cook for you, I'll
yeah.
do this for you." I'm like, "No, it's fine."
So it sounds like the moral of the story here is that it's okay to ask, but you also have to be willing to accept the help when
Right.
it's offered.
Thank
And a lot
you.
of times I'll wait for people to say, "Oh, yeah, I'll help you," but then I still feel uncomfortable accepting it. And it's like the only time I've ever asked for help in my life was when I had no other choice. There was no other way out, whether it be financially or emotionally. It's like when I was at rock bottom or whether I was about to be evicted or something, like, things like that. But other than that, it's hard for me to take it just because I feel like, well, again, I grew up thinking, well, it's my responsibility to take care of myself. Nobody should be taking care of me. And I don't know. And being not married and not, never living with well, not really living with a significant other, like long term, it's kind of, you're just used to taking care of yourself.
No,
So,
there is like a little bit of self-sabotage because if I think I know what goes on in your brain, and I think I do, you need help so desperately. It's so difficult for you to ask. You are shocked that no one sees how much help you need. And then when someone offers you help, even though a lot of time has passed, you feel that it's not genuine because so much time has passed and they're just doing it,
mhm.
just to make you so then you're like, nope, nope, I'm fine. Like
Yeah.
it is self-sabotage is exactly what it
Yeah.
That's
yeah, yeah,
exactly it.
Yeah.
but you don't that whole progression, you don't unless you pull yourself out and look like, "Oh, this is happening," you don't ever see it. It's
Right.
just a normal sequence of events.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm the type of person where if I do accept help and then they're like something comes up, they're like, I helped you that one time. You should be grateful. That will bother me more than because I'll be like, there it is. There it is. Oh my God. I shouldn't have accepted their help.
That's manipulation.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, Lori has to leave early, but I am so glad that you came to be a part of this and we got through a little bit of the list with you.
Good to see you, Lori.
Thank you so much for being a part of it. Everybody say goodnight to Lori. Lori.
Good night, Lori. Nice
Good
meeting
night,
you.
Lori.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was so good to see you. And we'll definitely catch up soon.
All right, on to number 11. Robin, it's you.
What others do or feel is about them, not you. It's not you actually true. Maybe you don't have what a person is looking for. Maybe they are learning how to navigate their own issues and feelings. Either way, if a person leaves, it is about them. They have decided you are not what they want in their life at the moment, possibly forever. Move on, find what you can learn from the situation, only change the things you will feel that'll help you grow into who you want to be, and work on finding the people who are better suited for you. This goes for both romantic relationships and friendships. It's perspective, all about
It is, and I
perspective.
think society and movies and stuff, and you're like, oh, it's not you, it's me. And people say, oh, yeah, right, it is me. But I think literally it is them, but we're made to think that it's us. And it's just everybody has their own thing.
Could be both. I mean, people are looking
Right,
at it
if
from
you're not
different.
what they're looking for, but that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you per se. Yeah,
Oh, no, you're just wrong for them.
exactly.
My turn. Silence does not equal abandonment. Sometimes people need time to think and not talk when there's conflict. This may mean little or no communication for hours or days. Everyone processes situations in their own way. If it doesn't look like your way, it doesn't always mean it's the end of a relationship. Trust the process and know it will be okay regardless of the outcome. Also, if a person doesn't text or call back right away, don't assume they are ghosting you. Despite the instant expectations with today's technology, busy times still do exist. I do think that silence during conflict or thought or anything, to be silent while you think about it is like a level of maturity that a lot of people haven't reached. Some people just expect, you ask them a question, you get an answer. But sometimes you just can't have an answer. It's not like what kind of ice cream do you want? It's not always so cut and dry. So I think that when you can take time to really formulate an answer, think about what you're going to say, and just say how you feel, I think it's super valuable and speaks volumes about you as a person.
But I think you also have to kind of let the person know that that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
To just simply go call somebody, not answer text. That
Right.
drives me sleeping upside down, batshit crazy when somebody doesn't answer my text. Sorry. But
Yes,
I go
true.
nuts. That's a mind, game, I think, that some people play. So I think that at least say, I need to think on this. Give me time, give me space. Don't just simply ghost them.
True, and it can go the other way too. I wrote this one specifically because I have abandonment issues. And so my immediate reaction is I want to get this settled now. That way I don't have to worry that this is going to end something or something bad's going to happen. And I've been learning that some people don't want to do that. They want time and space. And as long, like you said, Robin, as long as they tell you that, I feel like I'm getting better at it. But it's also can be true of not even conflict. Like I remember I went on a date with a guy and everything went great. And the next day I texted him and I said, thanks so much for the date. It was great. Yeah, we can hopefully go out again later on in the week because we had talked about that on the date. And he took all day to answer, and my anxiety started going up, and I'm like, "Oh my god, what did I do wrong? What is this? What is that?" And he was just working. Like, so at the end of the you know what I mean? He
Yeah.
was a teacher, and he was, like, working, and then he's like, "Sorry, I had my phone off," and it's just, like, all that unnecessary worry, and it's like
Yeah.
and even if that were true, even if he never got back and it seemed like everything went great, but somehow he didn't get back, that doesn't mean something's wrong with me. It just means he obviously didn't feel the same way. So, yeah, I mean, it can go both ways. It's important to know it's not just conflict. It's when you're like worrying that you're not hearing
Yeah.
from somebody or
Yep.
anything like that.
Okay, number 13. My difference is my power. Going through selective mutism as a child made me very different from my peers. I used to be ashamed of my social anxiety. Now I use my experiences to help other kids and parents navigating through the disorder. I don't have much information on this disorder, although I do have a a child that does not talk very much. Christopher is a high functioning, very high functioning autistic young man, but his thing is he doesn't always know how to express himself through speech, and it can be incredibly frustrating at times, especially when you're trying to get to the root of something that's going on. It definitely shows you a different way to parent, as well as to be patient with the general public in trying to find out an answer to a question without answering it for them or giving them the answer that might not be their answer. You know, it could be something entirely different, but you're like, okay, this is taking too long.
Yeah.
I want what I want now. And after a while, you're like, okay, calm down and wait. I play the 20 question game. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I just have to wait. And then sometimes I hit it, the right keyword or whatever, and then all the information I need just comes spilling out. So those type of issues definitely teach you patience and how to deal with the general public at large, I think.
It does. I think that any kind of difference like that, like if we're talking about like just not whether it's autism or selective mutism or anything like that, to be able to get strength by using, you build strength.
Yes.
I think you know that I'm getting at here. It makes you
Yes.
stronger. You get spirit. Like I have one daughter who was 2 pounds 9 ounces when she was born. She had part of her lung. She's probably one of my like most like she's a firecracker. She's like the go getter, and it's just when you have these issues like back when she was in school, it was always I can't do gym class, my lung, and she's full of crap because she had the surgery as a baby,
Ah,
which made the lung grow the same size. But now it's
right.
like become a strength because it gave her the fortitude. You get fortitude. I guess that's what I was looking for. Whenever time you go through any type of adversity like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I totally agree.
Back then, I always wanted to blend in with every kid and talk normally and not be afraid. But now that I've gotten over that and, I still struggle with being awkward sometimes and being scared to talk in public sometimes, but, now that I've gotten over that, I can help others and I get emails because I volunteer with a organization that, works on, raising awareness about selective mutism and helping parents and kids and all that, and, my email is on their site, so I get a lot of parents and even kids that are going through it. They'll like, I get an email the other day, and it was from, someone in college who said she's still going through it, and she read my story, and she's learned about me, and it helps her so much, and that's what I'm trying to do. Because back then, I wish I had somebody that did that for me, because I always felt like the odd one out, and nobody understood what was wrong, and I was like, "Well, you're gonna talk? What's wrong with you?" Instead of understanding. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, and I remember one of the most memorable moments when it comes to that stuff is I spoke at a conference, the Selective Mutism conference that they hold every year outside of LA a couple years ago. And they chose me to tell my story. They have a section, most of it is just learning, like from psychologists and all that, classes and all that. But then they have a section where it's people that actually went through it. And it was me, a little girl who got over it quickly, and then a parent, and so many people came up to me after, and I just told them what happened throughout my childhood and how I got through it. They were like, "Oh my god, we really hope you do a class on this at every, conference every year because we hear so much from parents and psychologists, but we don't hear from the actual people who went through it," and it was so interesting to see her perspective, and it helped so much, and I was just like, "Wow, I thought this would help a little," but it was a weird feeling, but it was a good feeling. Like, it was like you were actually making a difference.
That's
Yeah.
great.
I think one of the biggest things is you're probably giving a lot of parents hope.
Yeah.
Parents who think their child
Yeah.
Yes.
destined to have this issue their whole life, and then they see somebody like you, beautiful and out there, and like, doing things. I think that probably gives them a lot of hope.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It definitely does. I can guarantee it. I can guarantee it.
The first 3 episodes I ever did of my podcast, we had one that was, all about selective mutism. I interviewed 2 parents, and then it was called the parent's perspective. Then I had one from the child's perspective where I told my story, and then I had another one from the therapist's perspective. And I get a lot of comments still on those episodes, and they're a few years old now, that people say, "Oh, wow, it really helped me see from different perspectives this disorder." So it is my power now, I guess you could say. And it used to be my weakness, so that says a lot.
That was like an ironic thing to say. That says a lot.
Yeah. Okay, number 14. I deserve to be loved. Why is such a simple statement so hard to believe? Everyone deserves love. I am just as important as everyone else, and I will stop being uncomfortable when someone loves me. I still remind myself of this every day. It's a marathon, not a sprint. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, I've had a lot of trouble accepting love throughout my life. And I mean, my relationships have suffered from it. Again, I've had very kind people I've had relationships with, and at first I think, okay, I can accept this. And then when it gets too much, I feel like I can't, and self-sabotaging, all that whole thing. So, I mean, you have the regular relationships that just don't work out for other reasons, and then you have the relationships that don't work out when you self-sabotage. I've done a lot of that, and I didn't realize that till I did a lot of self-healing work. I would always just say, "Oh, the universe is against me. Oh, it's that person and nothing's going right." And now I see some of it had to do with me pushing them away without realizing it. So I'm learning that everybody has the ability to love someone else, but they also need to love themselves first, and then they need to accept love as well.
And also chiming in that the love people give you like may look different than what you are used to receiving.
Give us an example.
Like
That's a good
everybody's
one.
love language is different. You know the 5 love languages?
Right, okay.
Everybody's love is different.
Yeah, so it's not always like it is in the movies.
Correct.
Oh, hell no.
That's for sure.
Yeah, but I think
Yeah.
as when you're young, especially as women, when we're little girls, we
How you
grow
build
up
your
and they're
expectation.
yeah, it's like you see these Disney movies and all this stuff. Oh, you're gonna get the strong, handsome prince, and he's gonna solve all your problems. And it's funny because like that is totally not me.
I don't think it's anybody.
Yeah, I don't think that's real life. All right, Robin.
Okay, don't settle for less than you want. Settling will lead you to regret. There are no ways around it. Not everyone is vocal about their regrets, but I assure you that they are there. If it's not something you truly want, pass it on. Leaving that room open will allow the right thing to come in. It's also okay to change your mind later. What was right for you then may not be right for you now, and vice versa.
Very true.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You start off feeling this is the path. Yes, this is the path. And then you find out, yeah, not so much. I think I want to go this
Right.
way.
The fork in the road.
And you go that way and you're like, hey, okay. And when you decide to go that way, sometimes that might not be right either. And you zigzag a little and you're like, okay, I think I've found where I want to go or how I want to be now. And, sometimes you get there and sometimes it takes a long while to get there.
Yep. I think that's why you see some women stuck in marriages for years on end because they figure I did this, it's too late to do anything else now. I might as well just, lay in the bed I made or whatever. And,
Yes.
between, putting the effort into another relationship or, whether there's kids or not kids, it always plays in. But all of it, I think that's why a lot of people get stuck.
Yeah, they settle. That's exactly
Yeah.
right. That's exactly right. Oh, it's too late. Oh, I'm too old. Oh, it's too this. Oh, it's too that. They could live another 20 years.
Yep. We've been together 40 years.
40 years.
Can't throw that away. That type
Yeah,
of thing.
exactly.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can. And it could have served its purpose. It could have served its purpose for the first 40
Right.
years that you were
And yeah,
married or
that's why
Yes.
marriage to me is like it's a great thing, but at the same time, I think it does that to people. Like you think, oh, I need to be committed to this one person, and it's like, yeah, that's great if that works, but it's also okay not to get married and be committed. And then if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I think at the end of the day, marriage is just what society says people need to do to stay together, and taxes and all that stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a little more than that because there is
Mhm.
some stuff like, you have to think about too, end of life.
Yeah, but it's all like
who's
technical
gonna
stuff.
run it.
Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, whether you have that or not, you're the one who decides if you're going to commit to a person, and
Yeah.
whether it's right for you to last a lifetime or not. And I mean, that's all you can do.
okay, me.
All right.
Solitude is an opportunity for growth and learning. Being alone with no distractions allows you to listen to yourself in a way that you couldn't otherwise. Finding joy in singing and dancing alone in your living room and or talking sense into yourself when there's no one there to listen is irreplaceable and sometimes just what you need to get out of a funk. Become your own movie watching partner and mentor, even if it's only for a few minutes.
Living alone, I have done this a lot, and sometimes I love it and sometimes it can get boring and I wanna be around people, but I think at the end of the day, I am a very independent person, so even when I'm around people for, like, a few days, then I'm like, "I need my space again." And I think it's a
Mhm,
balance.
mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I go to the movies, like, I used to go to the movies by myself a lot, and people were like, "What? I can never go to the movies by myself. I can
Oh,
never
I
eat
love
out
it.
by myself." And I'm
Oh, I
like,
love
"What? What do you mean you could never? You could, you just think you're not supposed to." You know what I mean? And that's sad to me if you think that way because you don't always need somebody around to do things you like, take it in by yourself. Have that quality time with
Mhm.
yourself.
Some people don't like to be alone with their thoughts, though. I find that's a big problem for people.
Yeah, I mean, but if you're distracting yourself, it could be
I
good.
think a lot of times too with, like what you were talking about with the social aspect of it, a lot of people are embarrassed. It's not so much that they don't want to go, they feel
Yeah,
awkward or, self-conscious about it. It's because they wonder what other people are thinking about them. Why is that woman sitting alone at the bar, or why is
yeah,
she at herself? She, must have, they have preconceived notions of why you might be. And I think that's in the back of our minds. So
yeah.
I prefer going to the movies by myself, just for the record, and the beach and a few other places.
It's sometimes it's better than being with someone, in my opinion. Sometimes you just need that quiet time, and I'm sure
Hmm.
as parents, you understand that too, like,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The amount of times that my name is said in a day is
phenomenal.
Yeah.
unnecessary. It's unnecessary.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Well, being a recent empty nester, I can tell you, you will miss it.
Yeah.
Some of it. I wouldn't do it again, but I miss it.
Okay. Okay, 17.
Mhm. Know when it's projection. Have you ever stopped to think about some of the things people accuse you of doing or being? Have you ever thought, wait, that's what they are? Welcome to the land of projection. Let's face it, sometimes we need to be told when we're being a little crazy. But if you find yourself being in the middle of a situation in which a person is accusing you of things you know that aren't true, relax. They're just confusing you with a mirror. Oh, I like that. Yeah,
It's narcissism
that
at
happens
its
to me a
finest.
lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've noticed this happens a lot when there's conflict, obviously.
Of course.
You never have, like, a good conversation with someone and then they'll project something nice onto you. It's always, like, conflict, and if it happens and it can happen, like, with enough people, you start to question your own sanity and you're like, "Am I really that way?" And then it's like, "Wait, no, I know I'm not that way. But wait a minute, that's what they do. It's crazy. That's what they're known for." So I'm not even saying they would, know that that's what they're doing, but that a lot of people, and us included, I'm sure we've projected onto someone else at some point or another. Sometimes when we don't wanna face our own issues, that's what happens. You'll start projecting and noticing things in people that you're really struggling with yourself. So, don't take it personally. If you know that's not the way you are, then there's no need to stress about it.
But it bugs.
I know, because you wanna be like, "You
It
are such a
bugs.
hypocrite."
Yeah.
But I think if you have good friends like Stephanie and Jessica and,
They'll remind you.
yes, they'll let you know, maybe you do need to work on that, but they'll also let you know if, yeah, they're just projecting on you.
Mhm.
Yeah. You're just a little whacked out. Okay.
Okay. Meditation is one of the best free self healing tools. There's nothing quite like listening to your thoughts in a relaxing atmosphere. With a complex brain constantly talking to us, it can be hard to be present. Meditation has allowed me to look within and take in the moment. It's a way to bring calmness to life, a way to love yourself and give yourself the full attention you deserve. Take advantage of candles, baths, calm music, or whatever else your heart desires during meditation time. People like to roll their eyes at meditation, but what I've learned in self-healing work is it's not even about the and you're making fun of people like that. It's about quieting your mind, whether that be listening to a chant, listening to music, listening to yourself breathing. It's whatever way you can quiet your mind and just be still for a minute and let your thoughts go through and let go of the thoughts. That's the whole idea instead of like constantly being overwhelmed. And it's about letting the thoughts pass through and then letting them go, letting the thoughts pass through and then letting them go. And that's a way to calm your mind. And that's so important for your mental health for sure.
Yeah, acknowledging, accepting, and releasing.
Yeah.
I also can never quiet my mind, so if anybody does that, let me know.
Yeah, and to find time to quiet your mind is another.
See, but that's the
Uh,
thing too. People say that, but I think you need to make the time for you because you're just as important as whatever else you're doing. Even if it's 5 minutes. Like I read, you can meditate in the shower. If you feel like that's the only
Mm.
time you have, meditate in the shower. Like breathe in the shower and just focus on your breathing. Or when you're shampooing, focus on the shampooing and just go, I'm shampooing, I'm shampooing, I'm shampooing. Like it sounds silly, but that's how you quiet your mind and you calm yourself. And that's what it's about.
Have to give it a shot.
I've I've recently discovered the interesting frequencies on YouTube to help me do that. I am not one of those people that can turn it off. You know, my husband, he goes into his Zen space and my son too. And I'm like, okay, I just I can't get there. I'm like all and recently found certain things to listen to on YouTube, and I'm like, this is actually pretty good. You know, I'll turn it on either before I think about going to bed, so that way it's kind of sort of hanging around in the background, not really doing anything, just I hear it, and then I realize, hey, you know, I can turn off the TV, I can turn off the computer, I can turn everything off, and then sleep like a normal person.
Yeah.
It
And
takes
these
a
are
while.
frequencies. It's not like a guided meditation.
Yeah, it's certain frequencies that are listed.
So it's just like a white noise.
Kind of, yeah. Sometimes it's just a tone or like a small a tone with a small beat in the background. It's kind of hard to describe. And then other times it's melodic, but there's like an undertone in there,
Yeah.
and it just kind of sort of hits the right parts of your mind that kind of sort of chill things
So
out.
probably like a smaller version of like a gong bath or something like the sound baths they do with the gong.
Yeah,
That,
yeah. Like it's they do have those
yeah.
too, uh, on YouTube. Because I was actually thinking about listening to one of those. I heard part of one, and it actually was. I felt really great. It made me feel really, really relaxed.
Nice.
So I was like, oh, I like that. Frequencies are definitely the way I go.
Someone was doing the gong bath the other day when I was at my office, and I it kind of like tweaked me out. I didn't like it. I made her stop. So
Sometimes, you know, the frequency for you
hmm
is never going to be for
yeah, somebody
somebody
else. Yeah.
else. They might have to have a different type of tone or music or whatever. It, I think it all depends. Sometimes I hear something, I'm like, oh, no, no, no. I don't see how anybody thinks that's going to calm them down.
Yeah.
People swear by it, but it's not for me.
hmm
I look until I find one that I don't mind listening to, that I can put in the background and ignore.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much,
Probably more effective if it gets your subconscious too, if you're ignoring it like that. Like it's probably more
yeah,
effective because your mind is open to it working.
exactly.
I'm highly sensitive
And
to noise.
I use one for focus. I use one for or a couple of them to get me to kind of relax so I can go to sleep.
Well, sounds like
So
it'd be good for somebody with
yeah,
ADHD or something too,
yeah,
like with the focus ones, and probably good.
Yeah. A lot of people think meditation, you just need to turn your thoughts off, but that's not really how it works. What works is you let your thoughts happen, but then you release them. Don't fight them, just let them release in your head. Just pass, 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 release. It'll get easier as time goes on, and you'll realize you won't be thinking so much once you get used to it.
Okay. Oh, this one was written for me. Apologizing doesn't make you weak. Sometimes the most insecure people are the ones who have a hard time apologizing. Admitting you did something you wish you didn't can bring fears of failure and not being perfect to the forefront. We can feel it brings shame and makes our already weak foundation even weaker. Everyone makes mistakes, and admitting that is a strength. It shows you recognize how you can improve and that it doesn't always take away from your best qualities. I'm sorry is something we should say multiple times in our lives, not with contempt, but with compassion and desire to understand.
Yeah.
That's a big one. With the apologizing, I have a hard time apologizing personally because I feel like I'm always right. But
Yeah.
my husband calls me Robin Wright, so I do have a very hard time apologizing, and I've been trying to get better with that myself. One thing that I have difficulty with, because I have a fear of rejection, so I hate when I apologize to somebody and they don't accept the apology. Drives me kind of
Mhm.
crazy.
Oh, well, yeah, because then you're feeling like
Then
they're
you feel double
completely
rejection.
rejecting you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
So,
their problem.
oh, I know, but I think sometimes subconsciously even that might hold me back from doing it too. You know,
Mhm.
so some of those things I need to be more conscious of, I guess. But or just realize, hey, you know what? I apologized. If you don't want to accept it, I did my part. I did all I can do, and like be at peace with the fact that I tried at least. So
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think apologizing is admitting that we all make mistakes. If we never apologize, it's like saying, "Well, I'm better than you." Not that
yeah,
that's what you mean, Robin, but it's like saying, "Well, I never make mistakes and you do." So, and I think
Get
it's
over it.
a way of staying humble and like when you have kids, if you teach them to apologize, right? So why would you not go by that with yourself and adults and all of that? It just shows that we're human and that's okay. And that means that we're learning as we go along and we're going to have situations where we don't know the right answer all the time, or sometimes we'll think it's the right answer and then we realize, oh, that didn't go so well, or that hurt somebody, or that did this. So apologize, and it's almost like admitting, well, hey, I thought this was the right answer at the time, but I realized it's not. And that doesn't make you weak at all.
I do agree with that. Have to implement it more. I have like an agreement with my husband that even when we both know I'm wrong, he apologizes, and that's how we settle most things. So
All right. Something that took me a long time to do, but I did it. Um, Forgive your parents for what they lacked and pass down their best traits. As we get older, we learn that our parents didn't have all the answers. It can be a gut punch to realize that those we looked up to and held on a pedestal were just imperfect humans trying to navigate their own lives. They did what they could with what they knew at the time. Forgive them for being misguided. Forgive their wrong decisions, their shouts, and the times they may have leaned on us more than they should have. If we can recognize the moments we wish were different, we can use them to learn and make better decisions in our own lives as adults. We too will make decisions our kids will later deem as unacceptable. The key is to get better with each generation.
amen.
Yes. So, coming from a personal standpoint, I had a very tumultuous word of the day, ladies, relationship with my mother, um, for many reasons, projection, narcissism, and instead of spending my time, because I have kids of my own, like I can't believe she would do this. I switched to why does she do this and why does she do that? So then I started to learn more about narcissism, nature versus nurture, trauma cycles, those types of things. And I'm like, pot, how does the saying go?
The pot
Pot,
calling the kettle black.
pot meat kettle, pot, yeah, on the kettle black. Or my mom used to say pot meat kettle, and I'm like, you are like. But then I realized that
I like that.
more arguments and more fights would come from trying to fix her when I just needed to understand her, make a boundary, and be like, look, I feel this way about this, and we're not going to discuss this. This is how I raise my children. Um,
Mhm.
and that's what it is, and we just coexist so much better with that understanding. And then I realized, I can't really fault her for how she grew up and everything that she knew, because it took me a great deal of effort to fix all of the ways that I grew up with that were undesirable. Because at like 20, I'm like, I don't really have friends. And then and like much like Erin's like, no, you're the problem, like, no, I'm the problem, it's me. So that's my input on that.
Yeah. Jessica and I have had many conversations about this in the past. And even with my own mom too, I mean, it's different because, like, I knew this and I learned all about this before, but now that she's passed, it kind of makes me realize it even more. I'm thinking, wow, she really did just do the best she could, and she was very misunderstood a lot of the time. And I think the difference between my mom and me sometimes is just a knowledge and a willingness to learn. For example, my mom had this issue with noise. We would listen to the TV at night, and everything would be too loud for her, and she would get really angry. And I would always say, "Why are you like this? What, my God, you can't just let us watch TV like this, that." But now, as an adult now, I'm realizing every little noise that I hear that I'm not expecting or that I can't control, it triggers massive anxiety in me. I don't yell and like be loud because I don't have kids and but I'm sure I could see the connection. Like I could see it now and I'm like, that's exactly what it was. She got anxious over the noise, but instead of sitting down and realizing that or talking about it with us, or I don't even know if she like really understood it, she would just get mad and we never understood why. And now I'm seeing it's that anxiety. It's the trigger, the anxiety trigger. And my mom had a traumatic childhood. I'm sure there's something in there with noise. And now it's passed on to me. And I have like loud upstairs neighbors and they're really loud randomly all the time. And I get massive. It's not even annoyance at this point, it's anxiety. And it's really, really hard for me to cope with it. And then it just turns to anger. So I completely understand
Yes, you
now.
can overwhelmed. It's overwhelming to
Yes.
all of us.
But as a kid, I just thought she was being mean. But now I understand, and that's sometimes experience is the only way you're gonna understand eventually. And I think now I'm like, "Okay, I
Yep.
see it. I see it." And it makes me have more compassion
Yeah,
for
my
sure.
kids, like, they talk and they make so much noise and it's all the time and it's constant and, it's not that they're kids, they're kids, um,
Mhm.
but I just cannot take it. So when I raise my voice, after I come down, I'll apologize for it. But then I realize, like, all the time my mom spent yelling at me and my sister, or those memories that we have, like, it's likely because we were being rambunctious and she did not know how to deal with that. But if you need a trick, I know you ladies are beyond 4-year-olds and 9-year-olds, you turn the music up very loud so that nobody can talk.
And that's the thing too, it is generational. I think that, you know, the older generations and even my generation didn't have the tools that are available now for like you. We didn't have the internet where we could search and find like that there are other people like us and that this is what they did. So there was also a stigma and a shame attached to a lot of that stuff. Like you could not in that generation be weak, and have, like
Mhm.
autism was looked, nobody knew what that was. So, I mean, my brother Kevin, Erin, you remember him? Like he's gotten
Mhm.
beaten up because, people think he's just being an asshole. It's like, no, he's actually got, he's on the spectrum there.
Issues.
Yeah.
But because he
Yeah.
looks normal. But, like my mother didn't know a lot of the stuff about him when he was smaller to be able to go, use the tools and get the help that she could. And, I see a lot of that now with my kids, like saying things to me. And I'm like, it's different. You have the internet, you've got, things are a lot more open. And it's nice to see things progressing, but it's also a little bit
Yeah.
too late for me. I'm sad about
Why
it.
couldn't that have right, why couldn't that happen when you yeah. I feel like our parents probably could have been a lot happier if it was more open back then and accepted and learned.
I think the noise thing too, though, might be a family trait because as I mentioned before, I'm highly sensitive to noise. Like I've almost punched Bailey in the face when he's like whipped open a garbage bag too loud in the kitchen.
Yeah,
Just,
yeah, it's not
yeah,
pleasant at all, and I'm trying to get better, but it's almost like, yeah, it's like in you, it's just ingrained. Yeah, it's just one of those things, unfortunately, but as long as you know where it's
yeah.
coming from, you can forgive yourself when you get a little upset about it, and you're like, "Okay, this is not gonna hurt me, it's just noise, it's
Well,
okay."
see, now I use the marathon because I was also at the marathon, and that has exacerbated it when the bombs went off. So, like, I got some PTSD from that.
Oh god,
So
yeah.
the noise now, now I just explain it as that. I'm like, I was at the marathon. I don't like loud noises. Um,
Yeah, the Boston
yeah,
Marathon, right? So bombing, that
that
was
was pretty
terrible.
scary. But so the noises were already before that, though. It didn't start it, but it did exacerbate it. Definitely exacerbated.
Right, I can imagine, my gosh, yeah. I think it's cool too because there's no way of realizing it until you are older. and sometimes you'll realize it when you're a little bit younger, but seeing that pattern with your parents and realizing why they were the way they were and just forgiving them for it and understanding they did what they could, and I don't think any of our parents had bad intentions.
And if you do that, if you have kids, you're setting a good example for your kids, because I feel like they're going to they see you treating your mom a certain way, then they're going to feel like it's acceptable and they're going to grow.
Right. Exactly. All right, Stephanie.
21. Oh, this is definitely for me.
It's a lighter one.
Coloring is for adults too. I've rediscovered my love for coloring as an adult. Yes, there are adult coloring books, and they're fantastic. I remember always drawing and coloring in therapy sessions as a kid. Now I know why therapists did this. It's a great way to calm your mind and create something awesome to hang up later. I have a guinea pig themed one, a city themed one, and a Gilmore Girl themed one. Crayons and markers can both be used. And as an addendum to that,
Colored pencils.
colored pencils, colored pencils, watercolors, you name it,
Yeah.
I have it. I've got so many coloring books in here, it's not even funny. It's like I've always colored. So yeah, it's one of the best ways, I think, to center yourself.
It's kind of a meditation.
Choosing, yeah,
It is,
exactly.
yeah.
Choosing your colors. I have one that has exotic plant life, and I have one that's nothing but tarot cards. I have one that's completely Celtic, and I have one that's stained glass. That's on this special paper called vellum. So when you use a certain type of marker on it, you can hold it up and it actually looks like stained glass. It's so cool.
Oh, wow.
I have one that has to do with Tiffany lamps and things and shapes and stuff. And I'm like, they're everywhere. And of course I have Garfield and Mickey Mouse and, just tons of stuff. So it's like, yeah, you wrote this for me. Because coloring is definitely in my
Yeah,
wheelhouse.
I love it.
It helps, especially if you're having a moment and you're like, okay, I need something to do. And you look at your coloring book and you pick it up and you're like, okay. And then you just start. Sometimes you just sit there and look at the page at what is available to color. It helps. Actually doing it definitely helps. Puts you in a different frame of mind. And I think it's the best thing since cotton candy. I really do.
I might have to break mine out then. I have some. I never used them. Billy bought them for me for Christmas and they've been sitting in the closet. So I'll have to bring them out and try them.
Nah, look, I got the 96 box Crayola crayon box. Yeah, the little pencil sharpener in the back. Oh yeah. The prismatic colored pencils, Pentel colored pens. Yeah, everything is the gummy racers, the whole 9 yards. Oh yeah, just
That's the most animated I've seen her since this whole thing started.
I know, right?
Waiting for her to break them out and start showing them and like,
I know, right? Actually, and it's funny too because I'm actually looking at the coloring box right now, and I'm like, yeah, I think I might be coloring tonight.
Hey, color while we talk. We don't mind.
I know, right?
All right, next one. Don't be afraid to walk away. If something doesn't feel right, you don't have to stay. Whether it's a job, a relationship, a meeting, a party, a class, etc., you have control over your own life, and in my experience, your intuition is never wrong. Always be cautious in a dangerous situation, of course, but don't be distracted by the glory, the promises, and or the explanations if your gut is telling you otherwise. Walk away if you feel that's the best course of action.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure we've all been in a position where we felt like this situation, this person, whatever is not right. I need to leave, but you didn't leave right away because you're like, well, maybe I'm wrong. And then you realize, nope, that was right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, always listen to that small, still voice. And it's definitely one thing I learned.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you don't want that voice to be true because you're like, this would make everything difficult. But I mean, if it's true, it's true. And you have to accept it.
And you know it
And
when it is.
you do. but sometimes it's scary to face it, or you think it's gonna be too difficult, so you stick with it, and then
Yeah, and then you
you
find
realize
out,
that
"I should have been out of here ages ago."
it's true. It's okay to walk away, even if it's something you thought, "Oh my god, this was the greatest thing since sliced bread," or
Mhm,
a career, or even, or a person, like we said, marriage. Even if you realize this, something's not right, that feeling's not going to go away until you address it.
mhm.
And sometimes it will involve walking away, and that's the only option.
This is very true.
Oh, this is me? Okay, because this
Mhm.
is written for me again. Embrace salt baths. Soaking in salt baths are another great way I've learned to relax. They are wonderful for sore muscles and a tired body. They also help with mental stress. Carve out some time in your week to embrace a salt bath. Use unscented or scented Epsom salt and essential oils. My favorite scents are lavender, rose petal, and eucalyptus. Eucalyptus makes me sneeze. What my eyes in, but I like all the other ones. This is my thing. I have a hot tub outside that I use, and then I've got the big deep. So we renovated our bathroom a couple of years ago. We've got the big deep soaking tub that goes up to my chin because I'm tall,
Oh,
and I was sick of making
nice.
choices. For years, we had like just the regular 13-inch, and I could either soak my upper body and have my knees out, or have my knees in and the upper body out. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, all the salt baths, definitely.
As you get older, 40-year-old aching
Mm,
body.
for a baby.
It gets, necessary sometimes. It's also, even if you're not in pain, like, do it anyway because it's relaxing.
I don't know,
Take
I
the time
grew
for
up
yourself.
taking baths, so I never had a problem with being able to
Mm,
sit and soak in a tub for a while because that's basically what we
Yeah,
did
that's how you bathe.
till we got all pruny
yeah.
and then came out and went to bed, you know. So yeah, I miss my bathtub. Shower thing is killing me.
They sell some great portable ones now that you can like unfold.
Mhm.
Honestly, I've
Robert,
seen.
you would know,
Well,
right?
yeah, I
Well,
just
no, that sounds great, you
yeah,
know?
they're great. You could fit them like right into your shower stall. It's like a Chinese thing.
Oh,
Yeah,
really? Wow.
yeah,
Okay. That's something to look into.
yeah.
That's one of the reasons I chose this apartment, just because there's between this one and another one, and this one was the one with the bath, so that's why I chose it.
Oh yeah, makes a difference.
See, I've
My
written
God.
myself a note. Portable tub.
Yep.
Yep.
Your body's changes are all part of the process. Turning 40 has brought about changes to my body I never thought I'd see. Long gone are the days in my teens and 20s when I thought, yeah, that's not going to happen to me. Let's face it, some things you can help and some things you can't. It's all a part of getting older. An achy back, gray hair, a slower metabolism, shifting teeth, skin tags, and spots, wrinkles. It ain't always pretty, but it is real. It can be scary, but it's completely normal. You can stress yourself out by trying to cover up the noticeable changes with makeup, injections, or surgery. But at the end of the day, no one can avoid the natural process of aging, embracing each change as another phase of life, a life you are lucky enough to experience.
Luckily, I don't have any of that, so.
Well,
I was gonna say, you think 40's bad? Just wait, dear. You
Yeah.
don't know nothing. I'm in the throes of menopause right now, so like you ain't seen nothing yet. When you got a black hair growing out of the top of your foot, talk to me then, okay? That's
Ooh,
so I
ooh.
will be one though that disagrees with a lot of this because I'm not that far behind your 40. But
Mhm.
I absolutely, and it has nothing to do with like not accepting myself. Like, no, I'm not going to have gray hair. Like, I'm not going to accept that. Is it because it stresses me out? No, it's just because I don't particularly like it.
Thank
A
you.
slower metabolism
just that.
can be
That's
a
just
slower
it.
metabolism can be reversed. That's crap. If they tell you that it can't be, like, that's crap. What else was on this list? An achy back, also crap. Lotion is lotion, unless you have an
Lots of
injury.
Tylenol and Advil.
No, but see, this is no. You can cover it up. That's covering up the
No,
pain. I'm
fixing.
talking, well, yeah, but not everybody can be fixed though. There's only, I mean, some people can get better with certain techniques. The whole main point of this one is just, I think people need to be more accepting of who they are, and accept that aging is a part of the process, because so many people are trying to stay young, but whether you look young on the outside or whatever, you can't change the inside. It's going to get older. It's going to eventually give out. And that's just, I think, as long as we're focusing on living
Mhm.
first, and yeah, if we want to tone up a few things here and there to feel better about ourselves or just to look better in our own opinion, I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing to do. I just think most people do it because we're taught that looking younger is better.
But
You know what I mean?
Have
And
you ever
that's
seen
what
Jubilee Guns on the internet? She's like 80 years old and she's ridiculous. Her name is Granny Guns.
oh yeah.
She
Yeah.
was like aging and she's like absolutely not doing that.
Well,
Yeah. Well, she's still aging inside.
she's
though.
equating aging to like bad stuff, like aging like or we're equating. I was thinking a lot about this, fairly recently actually, like how come with other things, you look at a flower that hasn't bloomed yet, it's not ready. It's not as it's pretty, but it's not as ready. When it blooms, it's more pretty. Everything else is better aged. Wine, cheese, this, that. So why do we look at women, even men we think look better a lot of times when they're older. But with women, we say, oh yeah,
Yeah.
she's past her good years. Bullshit. You ain't done yet. You're not done cooking. No.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
No. I mean, you're beautiful.
Thank
Right,
you.
for the
You may have
older, the older women in here,
You're
I
coming
mean,
out very nicely.
but I mean, Robin and Stephanie are older than 40, and they're beautiful. They're not 18 looking year old women, but like they don't need to be. They've already done that. They've been
There's a
there. We've already done that. We've been there. Like people have to understand that growing in life is going through different ages. It doesn't mean staying one age just because you think that's the prime age and you look the best. It's about going through different phases, and in those phases you're going to look different, and that's part of it, but that should be more accepted, I think, in society. And I'm not saying I'm always confident with the way I look. Obviously I'm not. I wish I could change things, and I do wish I could be like 20 forever, but we can't, and I think we need to accept that. And it really saddens me when I see like 21-year-old girls on social media, the sucking the fat out of the face and getting the nose jobs and getting the fillers. It's become more common and more affordable now, especially when I was in LA too. That's where it's obviously the prime of it, but it's tiring to keep up with all that stuff. Like you feel like you need to keep up with it, and you're just like, God, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. Like, why do that to yourself? That's not good. We're never going to look like Barbie, and I don't think we should. I mean, Barbie's not real. Barbie's not real, and people need to understand that.
Yeah.
What's real is
This is
woman.
not Barbie, okay? I
No.
live in a dye bottle because I look really ugly with gray hair, and I can't. It's my personal preference,
It's
you know.
maintain yourself. Don't let yourself go, but not be
Yeah,
doing all these other things. These
yeah. That's because I told you, I said if I had any extra money, it certainly wouldn't be going on my face. No, because
Yeah.
no, and I want to see
I
these
would rather
girls
be taking a trip.
exactly. But the girls who keep getting the fillers, like the lip fillers and stuff, that you can only stretch things out so many times. So you're gonna look way older
Exactly,
than
yeah.
your age when you are not older because it's just gonna like sad. How about,
Exactly.
you
People
add
don't
more
realize that
fillers,
either.
you're gonna
Yeah.
end up with a pumpkin head, and they also all look like clones. They all look like carbon copies of each other. Once they get the lips and the big giant mouth,
Yes, that's the
like,
point. That's the point. It's getting, because everyone,
nobody's unique.
again, it's the fitting in thing.
You
The
don't
fitting in,
need to be a
and that's sad
Stepford
to me. I think,
wife, okay? Yeah.
well, I mean, look at all of us. We all look totally different, and we look fine. Differences are great. You don't need to look like each other to fit in. I mean, that's the whole point of this lesson. If you want to touch yourself up a little bit here and there, that's fine. Just don't do it for the wrong reasons. Somebody told me too, being overweight can be bullied, right? But back when years and years ago, being overweight was actually attractive because it meant you were rich because you could eat more. So it just shows you the differences of the generations and what we're taught. We're all taught this. We're all brainwashed. We're all brainwashed to believe that a certain look is the best look, and it's just not. Looks are looks. I mean, you only go skin deep. It's about what's inside, really. And I know we hear that all the time, but you really got to think about it. It's true. And yeah, you could look at something so much, but eventually you got to get past it and what's underneath.
Yep.
Okay. Spirituality is a personal thing. As I've gotten older, I've learned spirituality brings me comfort in a way nothing else can. Whether a person follows a certain religion or believes in a universal energy that leads the way, everyone has their own path when it comes to this part of their life. Lean into what works best with your beliefs and embrace what's bigger than all of us. Yeah, this can be divisive if you let it, because everybody believes something different or in a different way that doesn't necessarily coincide with you. I think that, especially today, there are a lot of people that are agnostic or just straight out atheist. They don't believe in anything. And if that works for them, that's good. I think that everybody has a certain amount of spiritualism that, you know, what works for them. That, you know, some people hold up science as their spiritual thing. Other people are completely into the holy roller Christian folks. I don't have time for those people. They're just nutty. Uh, then there are people who have a universal being. Then there are people who believe in aliens. It all depends on you and what works for you. A lot of people, they have a difficult time accepting other people's beliefs if they don't match or jibe with their own. It's very difficult. That's why, you know, in polite conversation, you avoid politics and definitely religion, because both of those, I've seen people come to blows over that stuff. And I'm like, really? It's like that. Okay. So yeah, I've been with a church my entire life, more or less. There was a period where I was away, but I wound up going back for different reasons, but it's always different. I was raised Catholic, and that's a drum into the head thing. You never forget. I've been an honorary Jew. I'm currently with a Lutheran church now. I did the Wiccan thing for a while. It's all out there. I guess, in your way of getting where you're going in your life, some people deviate and it's not an issue. Most people, though, if it's not the way I was brought up, then we definitely we don't gel. It's hard for people to understand that there are different ways to look at things, especially God. And that gets you in a lot of trouble, you know? So it's sometimes it's best to just move the oil on the water and let that alone. But
Yeah.
I think that, it's something that actually comes up in everybody's life at some point, uh, when you're picking a partner or dealing with family, friends, that kind of thing.
No, I was just going to chime in that you mentioned, like, between politics and religion, it's, so divisive that you just don't even talk about it with anybody. But the funny thing is that you're not going to change anybody's mind, whether they sit
This is
right or
true.
left, whether Catholic or
Mhm.
Christian. So, like, if everybody just accepted that nobody's going to change anybody else's mind,
Yep.
it's fine.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we're all going for the same thing. We're all trying to find something that helps make life a little easier and helps us believe in what
Mhm.
we feel we
Hmm.
need to believe to get where we need to go. It doesn't matter what it is. It's different for everyone. Sometimes it matches up, sometimes it doesn't.
This is very true.
Okay. Sometimes you're the one who has the answers. There have been many times in my life when I looked to others for reassurance of what I already knew. I didn't trust my moral compass enough and would therefore seek out someone to give me the answers. Sure, there are times when we let our issues take the wheel and overanalyze a situation until we find something wrong. But those aren't the times I'm talking about. I'm talking about the times when everything inside of us is screaming the answer, but we're refusing to listen. Maybe it's not the answer you want. Maybe it brings out your insecurities and fear of failure. Maybe it seems too good to be true. Whatever the reason, don't doubt yourself. Believe your inner truth. So yeah, this is about not trusting myself, and I think deep down I've known a lot of answers, but I've often gone to friends just to kind of say, well, let me just reassure myself. And then if they end up saying something different, I'm like, well, no, you were supposed to say what I thought to make me feel better. But it's important to know that even if their opinion is different from yours, if that's something you really want to do, then you already have the answer. You don't need to go to anybody. And if you go to different people, you're just going to confuse yourself. If you really are confused, that's one thing. But if you know deep down, like we were saying, that intuition, then just trust it. You got to trust yourself more. Only you know your intuition. And there have been many times where Stephanie was like, well, then why did you ask me if you wanted me to give you that certain answer? And it's like, you know what? You're right. I should have just trusted myself. Because Stephanie and I, we agree on a lot of things, but we also have differences of opinions on other things. And sometimes I would go to her and she would say something, and I'm like, man, she was supposed to say the other thing so I could feel better about my decision. And then she doesn't. And then I'm like, what do I end up doing? I end up going with my decision anyway. So it's a waste of
Terrible.
time. If you already know, you already know. And then sometimes you go to the friends you know are gonna agree with you, and you just do it to reassure yourself too, but I challenge you to go to a friend that might not think of it and then say, "Well, wow, maybe I am right."
All right. Overanalyzing only brings more anxiety, not more answers. I tend to be an overanalyzer and it's not fun. Anxiety leads me to believe that if I pick apart every detail of a situation I am not sure of, I can figure things out. Most of the time, that's not the case, and I'm left feeling more confused and anxious than I was when I first started overanalyzing. Not everything in life is a puzzle. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is bad. It's
In
a way of
spades.
controlling. Yeah, I think it's a way of trying to control a situation too. You're trying to pick apart every little thing to figure things out and say, "Okay, that's why," but just sometimes you don't know things, and that's okay.
All right, my turn. Know who deserves second chances. People will come and go throughout your life. A person may let you down, leave, and then later want to come back into your life. You may just get ghosted for no apparent reason and then hear from them years later. There have been a few instances in which I had to ask myself if letting a person back in was a good idea or not. Sometimes I did, and we stayed close, while other times I did, and it led to the same toxic path as before. Really think about a person's history and their intentions before you give them second or third chances at being part of your life. It's okay to turn them away. It's also okay to accept someone and lower your expectations once you learn what they're about and what they can and can't bring to your life. I don't think you should ever lower your expectations as a human. Um,
No, I meant, like, what you expect from
from
them.
them, yes.
Yes, make it more of like, "Well, this person I can't rely on for this, but they're still a pretty good
You
person, so I'm
already
gonna."
know what they can
Yeah.
provide. But also a person's history, like that changes so much as a person grows. Hopefully they
Mhm,
um that their history could just be, a mirror into their past or a window, not a mirror.
mhm,
I like to operate on intentions. It's I try to look at, was their intention good when they did this or when they, talked this way or when they left, and that to me is a big difference because we don't all have the answers. None of us have the answers, but we go by our intuition. If the person's intention was good, it's coming from a good place, then that's all I need to know. Um I feel like so many times we misunderstand each other, especially through texting now. And I see people get into arguments when they simply read it wrong. Or so it really is. It's all about intention for me. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
like, what do we expect everybody to be perfect? No, you got to be forgiving.
right.
29. Childhood icons never fade. The older I get, the more I reminisce about the people who inspired me as a child. I've learned there are reasons we look up to certain people when we're becoming the person we're going to be. We either recognize ourselves in them or recognize something in them we want for ourselves. My top inspirations as a child are still at the top of my list today. As my inner child continues to heal, they are special and irreplaceable and will always be a part of my story. I kind of sort of agree with that. And then I guess for me, it's a little different. When I think about this kind of stuff, it's more like, family or people that I went to school with or teachers. There's something about a particular person or whatever that I wanted to be part of my life or to take and make a part of me. TV never really did that, or movies. I think the only person that I found really, really inspiring, Jane Austen and Maya Angelou. I was like, okay, yeah. So, oh, and Oprah Winfrey. I was
Well,
like,
you have them. Then the only, that's enough. I mean, you just need
well,
one.
yeah, I know, but most the majority of them, family and friends, people I grew up with, teachers, that kind of thing, and just like the three people that I just named that are famous, I get inspired by Michelangelo. I love the frizzy haired guy, Albert Einstein, you know, stupid shit like that. You but he works for me.
We all have, yeah, silly icons. I think I wrote this one because I realized all the things I liked as a child, I didn't realize until I was older why I was drawn to those things. Like, a lot of them were about losing a parent. Party of Five's my favorite show. What's
Hmm.
that about?
Yeah.
their parents die in a car accident and their siblings trying to survive without them.
Mhm.
And things like that and other things that were similar were all, like, my favorite things growing up, and I never put it together until I was older. I'm like, "That's the reason. That's why I was drawn to those things," because I always say the Party of 5 was, like, my support group as a kid, because I would stay in my room alone after losing my dad when I was 10, and I would watch that. And they were growing up without their parents, and that helped me a lot. It helped me a lot,
Mhm.
and to this day, that's my favorite show ever. So I think there are certain things that we're drawn to as children that we don't even realize at the time why, but then when we're older, we can see that pattern and be like, "Okay, that's why," you know? Did you
Yeah.
guys have any of those growing up? Jessica, Robin, any shows or things you liked that you could see a pattern now why?
I haven't really thought much about it, but I'm probably gonna explore that next for myself.
Yeah, 'cause I had someone else tell me that their favorite show was Full House because they grew up with divorced parents and were never in a big family. That's what they wanted, so they were drawn to that. So things like
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, yeah, I think that we could probably recognize some of that in everyday life,
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
just icons. I mean, just everything that we do is kinda rooted back into our childhood, really. Every decision we make,
Yeah.
kinda comes from somewhere way back, like your personality that you're building throughout your life,
Mhm.
Mhm.
your preferences. I know that there's a lot of things that I liked when I was a kid that I don't like now. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
Mhm.
so
I mean, I don't really have any idols or icons just because my interests change so fast and so often that I'm never into one thing for long enough to, like, idolize somebody for it. But
Mhm.
shows and I'm like, what was my favorite TV show growing up? And then now you're making me think about why was that my favorite TV show? And now I probably
Oh,
know.
I know, right?
Yeah, so I'm like,
It's the coolest thing when you realize it. You're like, "Whoa, that
I
that's why."
love Alex Mack, right? She was like this girl and she could like melt, right? She could like
Yeah.
to a liquid and just like disappear whenever she wanted to. She can go down like drain pipes and just like move throughout. And I'm like, I love that show. So if I have to really psychoanalyze and be like, why do I love
Mhm.
the show so much? Like I do have a good amount of social anxieties that in an instant, like I wish that I could melt and absolutely
Yeah.
nobody would know where I went. Like I want that talent.
Yeah. I mean, it's little pieces you can see, and there's reasons you're drawn to it. Either I feel like either you can relate or you wish you could do that.
I don't know, that doesn't say much for me because one of my favorite shows was Gilligan's Island, so
Not every
wow.
show. We're talking just,
I'm
like,
like,
certain
"Okay,
ones.
hmm, yeah, I never missed an episode." So, yeah, there's that.
For me, I just was alone a lot as a child, and I would
Oh,
watch
no,
TV
I
a
I
lot,
get it.
and so I those were my idols, and again, I had selective mutism, so I didn't talk to people, so, like, it was almost like they were my friends watching these people.
I get that.
But other people might have it like Stephanie, like, look up to a teacher or somebody else that they admire, and there's reasons for that too. I believe there's reasons for all of it. We're drawn to these people and things for certain reasons. Alright. You're never too old for a new hobby. Lately, I've been fascinated with the art of cake decorating. I've spent more time than I probably should watching live streams of cake decorators working their magic and creating incredible designs of all kinds. From a character filled adventurous playground to, yes, the male genitalia, you really can make a cake look just look just
About
like
anything.
look like just
Mhm.
about anything. Some of the decorators are professionally trained, but many are self taught. I've always loved to bake, and now I'm learning how to decorate cakes of my own. It's been a fun and relaxing experience that proves you don't have to be a teen or a young adult to learn new skills. Yeah, this one caught me by surprise. It's really cool. I mean, and it just shows you can just develop an interest at any age. You never know what might strike you at the right time. So go for it.
This is very true, and you're very good at it. Yes, you are.
Yeah, I'm learning.
the cake decorating, you can make a lot of money off that. So many of
Yeah.
the people are doing it now, like just selling cupcakes and
Mhm.
cookies, stuff like customized for weddings, and
Home
they do pretty
bakeries
well.
too, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them did it as like a side gig during COVID, and now they just kind of
Right, yeah. And now it's become more popular, yeah. Alright,
Okay,
Robin.
31. That would be Robin.
okay. The cycle of life doesn't wait. Since losing my mom just 2 years ago, I've also lost 5 uncles and an aunt who were mostly in their 70s and 80s. Almost an entire generation in my family is now gone, and it's hard to comprehend. Reaching 40 means the adults that were around when I was a kid are the elderly ones now, and the cycle of life is happening. Although our young selves know this will happen in the future, it seems so far away that until it actually starts happening. It not only brings on sadness and grief, it also reminds us of our own mortality. It's okay to feel scared and lost during these difficult moments. It's normal. Therapy and heartfelt conversations with those I love have helped me get through each day of this new life. Having gratitude for the memories of my late loved ones left behind has also helped.
Yeah. Uh, and Robin can attest to this too.
They're all my people.
Yeah, we've had a lot of losses in our family over the past few years, and it's crazy. It just seems like one after the other. It's hard to comprehend, like I said in there, but I'm still trying to comprehend it, I think. But it really has my mom, obviously, especially, has just changed my entire life. So it's like I'm living a different life now, and it's a weird feeling. But I mean, I think we need to be patient with ourselves when those things happen, and just know that it's part of life, and it's okay to be sad, and it's okay to ask for help when you need it too. Unfortunately, there's nothing we could do. We wish everyone could live forever, but it's obviously not the case. So it's a difficult one, but it's just something we're all gonna have to go through, most of us at least.
Well, your beginning sentence was about the cycle of life, and like you elaborated only on the death part of that. And
Right,
I've kind of thought about that recently. We're regrowing, like we're repopulating our family.
right.
Everybody's
Mhm.
baby getting so it's really it hasn't gotten smaller. Even though we're losing so many loved ones, it's getting bigger. So it is a cycle. It is definitely a cycle.
It's a
And I get
cycle, yeah. I think I focus more on the death because I don't have any children. So,
oh yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but you're right. There's lots of new children in our family too, and, that's a great thing.
Well, I mean, because I just actually was thinking about this just yesterday because more on my husband's family, which isn't as large as ours.
Mhm.
So the loss more. So when I first met him and the first bunch of years we were together, there was the older crowd. We had all the oldies, the
Yep.
aunts and uncles and his dad and stuff, and they have all passed.
No,
So
yeah.
now it's just he and his brother and his sister and his cousin, and it's just them. So we used to have a house full on Christmas Eve with all his family, and now it's just these four. But my niece is pregnant. My daughter's having her second. My stepdaughter have four. So like in that way, like for a couple of years there, we had Christmases that just had a couple of people in the room, and now
Yeah.
at a cookout Memorial Day, my yard was full of kids again. So it
Yeah.
really is a cycle, and you have to kind of hold on to that. And if in the moment you're sad about, what's the state of your family because we're losing everybody, maybe wait a minute because then it's going to replenish. And it's
Right, and we'll soon be the older ones leaving, and then it'll have
oh yeah,
they'll
he's
continue on. So, yeah, it's the cycle. It's scary, but it's also a good thing. It's like a beautiful thing in a way because it just reminds you appreciate the people
yeah,
when they're here and know they're not gonna be here forever.
yep,
I know I'm a kind of doom and gloom when it comes to that, only because my family was small to begin with.
Mm,
And after Katrina, it turned minuscule. We lost about 85% of our family. That was tough to deal with. And
that's
then
crazy, yeah.
the realization that Daniel and I were having a conversation about him being the last because we have no way of knowing whether or not our son is going to carry on the family name. And it's a little hard to face that that's a serious possibility. And it definitely brings up your mortality. And because you live through your children. And in this case, that might not be the case. And it's like, okay, how do you deal with that? We kind of sort of tabled that discussion, but it's not like it went away because it's still there, you know. Um, can we do anything about it? No. Uh, does it make us sad? Oh, yeah. The only thing we can do is accept it, and that right now is a little difficult to accept. So we just kind of sort of push it over in the corner somewhere, let it gather dust. We'll get to it later.
Yeah. Yeah,
It is what
that's
it
tough.
is.
But, I mean, I think you and Daniel, like, obviously, you guys are making a difference too in the world, and what you taught your son, he's gonna make a difference, and sometimes that just happens. The cycle stops, but then there's new cycles, and I think about when people, because again, I don't have kids, but I don't know if I'll ever have them, but I think people that either don't have kids or especially people who can't have kids, like, I'm sure they think about that as well. Um,
Yes, my sister is in that category. She can't have children, but she has dogs. So
yeah,
We're all way too concerned, I think, with what's going on after we're gone.
right, yeah,
yes,
You know what I mean?
yes.
Like, there's always that, "Oh, we're not gonna carry on the name." What do you care? You're not here. You
right.
know?
Like,
No,
I was
I think
gonna
it's
tell you,
there's
but
too
I
much
didn't know
emphasis.
like a source of comfort, like, "No, no, no, I know you worry about it now, but when you die, you ain't gonna think about it, so don't worry."
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's nice to carry it on, but it might not be carried on as long as you think it. The person that carries it on, maybe they'll turn into a horrible person. Who knows? Like, you don't know,
Or
you know?
maybe when a family line does end, maybe it's because their story they've done what they needed to do.
Exactly. That's where
That
faith
you know
comes
what I
in
mean?
and
But
like belief.
that's
Yeah, I think that's where the belief
oh,
comes in and all of that. I think you just gotta have faith and trust in that. Just because you're not carrying on, so to speak, through a child or whatever, doesn't mean you're any less important or your family was ever any less important to the world, the universe, whatever you want to look at it as.
this is true. On the flip side of that, it carries on, and I just have to
Yeah.
get over myself. Mhm. Yeah,
No, I can understand why you feel the way you feel, but we only have so much control, going back to
and
that.
I tell you that all the time.
Yeah, so no, I'm telling you.
Yeah, exactly.
Alright. Not everyone wants your help. When I embarked on my self healing journey a decade ago, I was excited in awe of the things I learned about myself. To know why you are the way you are is an incredible thing, and it makes you feel like you have some secret answer for all those in daily emotional pain. The same emotional pain you were in when the world felt like a confusing place that was against you. It's only natural to want to share that secret with those you care about, but I learned the hard way that if someone doesn't ask for your help, they most likely don't want it. In fact, if you push hard enough, you may even trigger anger in the person. A person has to be ready for their own self healing work. They absolutely won't listen to anything you have to say until they're at that point. You can send all the therapy worksheets, self help books, and self empowerment videos you want. If they aren't ready, they won't look at them. Give them the freedom to look for it in their own time. It's their journey, not yours. You can lead a horse to water, but
You can't make it drink, yes.
True
When
that.
I was, yeah, doing the self-healing work, I'm like, "This is so cool, I gotta tell everybody," and then when a friend would come up to me, "I'm so sad about life, I'm like, "You need to learn about yourself," and oh my god, that was made her angry, one friend in particular. Yeah, I realized you don't have control over whether or not they're gonna accept it. You can tell them, but it's like, they're not gonna listen if they're not willing to learn. Unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about it. I used to say, "Well, it's like looking at somebody destroying themselves when I have the answers." And it's like, well, you
Wow.
can't. No, not in a like, "Oh, I know everything" way, but like, I know exactly what they need to do to feel better, and they're not doing it, you know? And it can be sad to watch a person go downhill when you feel like they could help themselves, but again, they have to want it. So
That.
I would just offer it, but if they say no, don't wanna accept it, leave it alone. Or if they ask, then definitely tell them about it if they wanna know, but be
Yeah,
careful
I
with it
just kind of
because
sort of
yeah.
put things there, you know,
Yeah, mhm.
kind of like a cat, slide it over on the corner and leave it there. Hopefully they'll look at it. Yay. And if
Yeah,
not, well, it's not like I didn't try.
right.
Hmm. Okay. 33. I'd rather laugh than have no wrinkles. Yes, that is so me. Okay. Um, looking like you're 21 forever shouldn't be one of life's goals. One of life's goals should be having many memorable moments that bring you to your knees and, and make you pee your pants because you're laughing so hard at something someone you love said, or smiling so big that your face and your jaw hurt for hours after. Okay, like now, right?
Yep.
There's a reason they call wrinkles laugh lines. They signify those times of happiness in your life. And there's no wrinkle free face that's more beautiful than that. Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's like walking around, people who get Botox and all this other crap, because The lines. I'm like I told you, if I had extra money, it certainly we would be going here. No, no,
Yeah.
no. We be going out making mad memories, going someplace I always wanted to get, someplace on my bucket list, or places on my bucket list. Buying something I've always wanted or whatever. But that whole cosmetic thing, yeah, not so much. Mm-mm. Nope. I can go to a drugstore and get what I need, and life is good.
I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard, and no offense to anyone who likes her, but I heard that Victoria Beckham does not smile in photos or anything because she wants to avoid wrinkles. When you look her up in all her photos, she's mostly not smiling. So I don't know if that's true, but I've heard that. And if that's true, I'm sorry. I don't think that's a good role model. Just
No.
like that's just like, really, girl, live. You have a beautiful life. Have fun, smile.
Well, we think she has a beautiful life. Maybe she doesn't.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay, I get it. But I'm just putting that out there. You know?
She said she's had a beautiful life, like in the documentary she had with her husband recently. Like, it's all about, family and how much she's grateful for her family and kids and all that. And I mean, smile. A lot of people tell you look prettier when you smile. You hear that often, don't you? People tell you that?
Yeah, I got resting bitch face like you wouldn't believe. And
Yeah.
if I don't actually smile, people are, what's wrong with you? Why are you so upset? I'm like, I'm not. It's, I got a bulldog face. You just got to deal with it. I mean, I do smile. Okay. Like I'm smiling like a fool now,
When
but
it's appropriate.
yeah.
Yeah. It's just, don't be afraid to smile. It's fine if you have laugh lines. That means we're smiling more in life.
Well, yeah.
So, yeah,
You don't get these from not,
right.
not laughing. And I do like to laugh,
That's
so.
good. All right. Money isn't always earned. This was a tough one to accept, but it's reality. Yes, it's true that sometimes the harder you work, the more you can gain financial success. But the opposite is also true. Some people are literally given money after being born into a wealthy family. They never have to work to live. And some people work hard labor all their lives and never make even close to what those people have. It's unfair and it sometimes makes me angry. It sometimes makes me think it's not even worth it to try. But no amount of money is worth your happiness. We all hope we can make a living out of doing the things that we love, of course. Some will get the opportunity and some won't. It doesn't matter how educated you are. Don't let money get in the way of your passion. If you have to make money doing something else to live, make sure to still make time for doing what you love. It will bring your heart the kind of happiness that lasts. And yes, I mean, this is tough to learn because I've come across many situations where I don't think it's fair. And I think, some opportunities shouldn't be given to people who don't appreciate them or take advantage of them. And, even in apartment hunting in New York, it's like you need to be rich or you need to have family who's rich to even get a nice, safe apartment. And they will take, somebody who's inherited money from their parents or the parents are paying the lease. They'll take that over a hardworking individual who has a college degree, who has a full-time job, and who has a good rental history because they don't make 3 times the amount of the rent. It's insane. And I just think it's tough to handle sometimes, but unfortunately there are rules in life in certain states and that's just one example. It could be anything really. And I just think you have to understand that no matter how much money someone has doesn't make them smarter, better, or anything like that. It may give them more opportunity, unfortunately, but let's
Mm-hmm.
hope they use that opportunity for good. And if they don't, well, then be an example and try to do what you can
Mm-hmm.
with what money you have. Yeah, and don't ever let it affect your passion. If you're passionate and don't have the money to do certain things, try your best to get the money. If you can't, just do it anyway. If it's meant to be, I feel like you'll find a way. And the right people and the right opportunities will come up. And you just got to kind of let it be that way. All right, Robin.
Integrity and true passion trumps popularity. I've always known that just because something is popular doesn't mean it's better. In today's social media world, just about anyone or anything can go viral and become popular for a myriad of reasons, good and bad. Try to be a person filled with integrity and speak from your heart. Do what you're passionate about, and if that brings popularity, great. If not, it doesn't take away its value.
Exactly.
Yeah, Tide Pod. Don't eat Tide Pods. There you go. That's all I need to know.
Type,
Don't
type.
follow trap. Well, because I mean, people thought that was cool for a minute, but
It's crazy the amount of things that can make a person famous today. Like I'll be on social media and I'll like try to make a difference putting out this heartfelt post and then you see someone making
go
a
hot.
video of yeah, of them like acting like a chicken and they have millions of views and followers and you're like, "Oh my god." It's
Yeah,
funny in a way, and on the other token, it's like, "What the hell?" Like, I'm putting my heart out here, and you get 1 view, and you're like, "Oh, great. This
yeah.
person's, like, getting all these opportunities and all this money just to be an idiot."
Well, yeah, but some people get made famous, that don't necessarily want to be, like the guy in the pole vaulter, the French pole vaulter, whose
Oh,
package was just a little too, and you could see it knocked over the bar, and not once but twice. But he's gonna have to live with that for the rest of his life. And I'm like, you know, that's not right. That man. And he's young, he's, I think, like 21 or something like that. I'm like, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of notoriety. No. Mm-mm.
he may enjoy it. He's a man. He may enjoy that notoriety.
Who knows?
For a
Yeah.
certain way. Yeah. Or,
Yeah.
but as his profession, to be an athlete or whatever, no, that's going to cause some serious issues.
Well, yeah, you have the things that happen randomly, but then you have the people who try to be famous, and
Well,
then
yes,
a
i.e.
lot of
the
them do become
Kardashians.
famous. Yeah, a lot of them do become famous.
And you're wondering
And it's just
why?
yes, and that's the whole point of this one is just to say, don't let that get you down. I mean, there's only so much we can do, and just because you're not popular or famous and swarmed with followers or doesn't
Live for
mean that
yourself, not for everybody else.
exactly. You just gotta trust.
Okay, me. Pets are fur babies. As a 40-year-old with no children of my own, my guinea pigs have become my babies. Although they're small animals with a significantly shorter lifespan than a healthy human baby, I've loved them more than anything I've loved in my life. Their mere furry presence and bundles of love kept me going in some of my life's darkest moments. I'll forever be grateful for the time I had with them. They're proof that unconditional love can exist and how a living soul, no matter how tiny, can make the biggest difference. I think of them every day.
Yes, I totally agree
Yeah.
with that.
I feel like humans don't deserve animals sometimes. It's like
Mhm.
they're so innocent and precious and just want to be loved, and especially the domesticated animals. I mean, we just take them in our homes and they rely on us, and I think there's something unlike anything else in the world like that. Even babies, because eventually babies grow up and they don't need you anymore. Animals will always need you. You're with them till the day they die most of the time, unless you go first. But yeah, not having children of my own, they obviously become the center of my world. And I'm just so grateful I've had them. And I think I would suggest anybody who doesn't have kids or can't have kids or any of that to get a pet.
Pets do a lot of things for folks,
Mm-hmm. It's like
and
they're emotional support animals. That's why they call
yeah,
them that. Yep.
they are. And I missed having a pet. When I was a kid, we had dogs and cats and spiders and frogs, and it was
Mm-hmm.
cool. And I miss that, because my sons, well, like you said, they grow up, you know,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
Robin, empty nester, they're out of the house,
When I
and
got my first dog.
yeah, see, so
Yep.
it's
When my
like, I need your baby now. So
Yeah.
Yep,
There you go.
it's,
needed someone to need me.
Jessica has a new dog too.
Her name is Barbara.
oh,
And like we brought her from the Dominican Republic. She cost more than a mortgage payment. And
wow.
we that was unknown to us at the time, but my daughter had already invested so much emotional energy into her that we couldn't just leave her there.
Hmm.
And it has been quite an emotional support pet for my daughter. And when I knew we were getting one, I'm like, fantastic, great. That's exactly what I exist to do is pick up more shit because I'm gonna have to pick up more shit. I love cleaning shit. But then she comes here and I'm like, well, I love you, the princess. You can sleep right here.
So cute.
She's adorable.
That's sweet.
She even goes to doggy daycare.
Cute. Well, 'tis I, 37. Life shouldn't be a checklist. Very true. Society likes to make us think that we need to have to do certain things by the time we're 40. That includes getting married, having children, having a lasting career, and a home. Everyone's journey is their own, and not everyone wants or has the opportunity to have some of these things. A person can be fulfilled and valued in various areas of life. It's important to have less judgment and more compassion in a world full of people just trying to get by. You ain't never lied about that. We were only supposed to be here for 3 years. We had a checklist. We had a plan. Yeah, well, that plan just went. And 34, almost 35 years later, we're still here. And it's like, I've just been able to let go of that checklist. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to have goals, of course, but if you don't reach certain goals or you don't have the opportunity to reach those at a certain time, don't beat yourself up and don't think that you're not successful unless you check all these things off the list. Sometimes you got to change them around.
It's real easy to do, though, to beat yourself up about that. You know,
I know, but I mean, there's no need.
I
We
know.
can only do what we can do.
This is true. I'd said if I didn't have a kid by the time I was 30, I wasn't having any. 29, I was pregnant. Not on purpose, but it just kind of sort of happened that way. But I'm like, mainly because I wanted to be like my mom. I wanted to be young enough to be able to play with my child and be like some of the kids that I grew up with. Their parents were in their 60s and 70s and they're like in grade school. I'm like, damn, when you get into high school, your parents are going to be in their 80s if they're still alive. So I know quite a few people like that. I was like, wow. So you check that list, get that list out. Okay, well, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. And the problem is when you don't get the things that are on your list or that people feel that should be on your list, they make you feel less about yourself and about your life. And it's like, I've actually had a pretty decent life. So why are you making me feel bad about what I don't have because it doesn't fit your list?
Right.
So,
Lists are okay as long as they're your own. It's your list. You can
Yeah.
go by
yeah.
your- It's when we're going by other people's lists or like the society's standard of what
Society's
the list
list.
should be.
Yeah.
Go to college, get a house, get married, have the babies. Your list can be, I'm going to go travel, across Europe with a backpack.
And
There
you're
you
listening
go.
That's your list.
Too.
That's good, because that's how you realize your goals sometimes is by having a list.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
So-
especially like with young people, they make a list and it's usually what society tells them.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the tricky part is you got to realize that don't do that. Make your own list. And if you don't know what you want yet, wait.
Mm-hmm.
Why there's the divorce rate is so high.
Yeah.
It's like people just feel like they need to get married, have kids, do all this right away, or they're not, or people look down on them, especially if you stay in a small town and that's all they do. It's like really bad. Half those people end up unhappy.
That sucks.
All right. Don't chase or beg people. If a person doesn't want to be in your life, let them go. If you find yourself having to constantly work to get their attention, it's time to take a step back and think about what you want more. Someone who you have to prove your worth to, or someone who already knows and appreciates your worth. Communicate your needs openly and always admit your wrongdoings, if that's the case, but don't ever beg someone to be a part of your journey. You deserve people who will see you as a blessing, not a chore. Trust their absence is making space for those with values more aligned with yours. You should never have to chase someone, beg them. If you find yourself doing that, they're not for you. I mean, that just says more about you than them. It says you think you're not worth it and you think you have to win this person's attention. And no, unless you did something wrong where you have to make it up to this person or whatever, no, if they don't like you for you, don't change for them. Don't try to be something you're not and like try to chase them as if there's some kind of goal. Nah, let them go.
I used to do that.
Like, even if you get them, usually it won't last if that's what you had to do to get them.
And that's
So
exactly
it's
it.
not worth it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's
Or you usually end up pushing them further away.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't like to be around people who are too needy for me, so I usually will,
Yeah.
just feel like when something's latching on like that, it's almost like a red flag,
Yeah. Mhm.
so
Anxious,
it's
anxiety. They're
yeah,
anxious style, probably.
yeah.
Someone told me once that you have to treat people like you would a wet bar of soap. And it makes sense because they said if you squeeze the bar of soap too hard, it's going to slip out of your hands, like if it's too wet. But
Mhm.
if you hold it just loose enough, it'll stay there.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool.
That always stuck with me.
Challenge.
Yeah.
Might have to, like, visualize that every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. Bar soap.
Wet bar soap.
Yeah.
It's gotta be
Yes.
wet.
There you
Yeah.
go. Wet bar of soap. It's rotting.
Oh, wow. Living without parents brings a vulnerability like nothing else. It puts you in the driver's seat of your own life with no safety net. When I lost my mom and suddenly had no living parents at the age of 37, I felt lost. To be honest, I still sometimes do. I compared what I was feeling to standing at the edge of a cliff with no one to catch me if I slipped and fell. This is something you can never get back when the two people who brought you into the world are no longer in it. A part of me is gone, but part of them remains. I'm learning to trust myself a little more and still hear their voices in my head when I need them the most. Life will never be the same, but I know they want me to fearlessly make the most of my time here. I'm getting there. You are getting there.
Yeah, it's obviously not easy. Would always be afraid when my mom would pass. I'd be like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna avoid thinking of it. I'm gonna avoid it because again, I lost my dad very young, so I already had lost one parent at that point. And yeah, I mean, I don't think you could ever prepare yourself for the way you feel. Like it really, I knew I would feel bad, but I didn't think I'd feel this vulnerable. And I think that's the key is like you feel vulnerable. Even though I know I can take care of myself and I know I have siblings I can turn to, it's still a vulnerable feeling when you can't call your mom or dad, and because even though they're human and they don't know everything, there's something about a parent being there where you're like, "It's gonna be okay." You just call them and they're like, "Don't worry, it'll be fine." And you're like, "Okay, well, it's gonna be okay." And now I kinda have to tell myself that because even if my siblings say that to me, it's not the same. It's just not the same. So, I don't think you could ever really realize it until you lose both your parents, and I don't even necessarily mean biological, it's just whoever brought you up.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think a lot of that is, it's definitely hard to absorb, but a lot of it I think is like having to face that you're the grown up now and that
Right.
you are now responsible for everything. Anything you do is on you, and like with the parents, we've looked to them for advice so many times or for, just a comfort even if when they're yelling at you or whatever, it was something. It's your parents.
Yeah.
And it's like the unconditional love I think that you really have is between a parent and a child
Mhm.
is like true unconditional love. And once they're gone, it's like that's the last person who's gonna love me no matter what. So
My siblings sometimes I don't think they get what I say because they're like, "You know I'm always here for you. It's fine. I'm always here for you." And I'm like, "Yeah, I get it, but you don't understand. Like, you didn't choose to bring me in this world. You just got me by chance. You know, my parents chose to bring me in this world. So in a way, I feel kind of better with them, more comfortable with them. Like, oh, well, you're responsible for me. You brought me here. So it's like that type of thing. My siblings, most of them have kids and they're enjoying their own families, their kids. It's almost like I feel kind of left out in a way. It's not left out. They don't leave me out, but it's just I think it's just natural you feel that way where you're kind of like, well, I don't have my own little family yet, so it's you don't want to intrude on theirs, especially since the person who held you all together is no longer, alive. So I think that's what I mean when I say vulnerability.
oh yeah.
Losing my dad was hard, but I was very young and I always had my mom. So now that I lost her, it's like, well, there's no parent. So I think it's harder, honestly, in a way. Even though I'm an adult, it's harder. A child, I think you're more resilient. Even though my dad's death affects me as an adult for sure, in my relationships in every part of my life, it's more of what it does to me as an adult, but I think emotionally, with my mom, it's a little bit harder.
You knew it a lot longer.
That too, yeah. Feels like standing at the edge of a cliff, like I said in there. And if you fall, you feel like you're gonna die because no one's gonna be there for you. The good part of your brain knows you have friends and family who care. It's almost like if you have the parent, it's more of a definite, if that makes sense.
I mean,
Mhm.
is it
It's unconditional. You know that no matter what you do, they're gonna love you. Where like a friend, and we love you so much, but
But I mean, my friends have proven to be there.
Oh, no, I get it. I mean, I never had not until recently, had a real relationship with my mom. Growing up, it was my grandmother. She was everything to me, and my pal, and the person who taught me how to walk in heels and wear lipstick and do all the things that I do. And when she left, it was like, wow. Of course, she had been here for a long time, and it's difficult to get past that. I'd find myself calling her up. Oh, I gotta call Little, like, wait a minute, what am I doing? It's hard
Mm.
when that individual who accepts you for who you are, the way you are, and doesn't try to change you into something that you're not, and you love them, they love you unconditionally. Yeah, it's really difficult to get past that. The relationship I have with my mom, we've had some cathartic conversations, and we've kind of reached a detente, which is actually a good thing. And I'm glad that my relationship with her has definitely changed. And yes, I will definitely miss her, but the missing that I have for my grandmother is definitely different. That's a hard one to put behind you.
did your grandmother raise you?
In a way, yes, and in a way, no. My grandmother lived around the corner from me. So, but I was always there. Even when I didn't need to be there, I was there because it was fun to be at Little's house and not be at my own.
So she fills the mother spot. I mean the parent spot. Then basically,
Yeah,
she seemed to have that role for you
the
now.
relationship between my mother and I it was insane, very tenuous and very stressed. She didn't get me. She didn't understand me.
Mm.
And so it's like I kind of got asked out. And my grandmother saw that. And she just kind of folded me in and made me feel like a daughter. And so in a way, yes, she did raise me. Uh, I'm finding out a lot of things about my mom I didn't know, as to why she reacted the way she did to a lot of things and the things she was going through at the time. I'm thinking it's me, and it's not about me, about you, and things like that are coming out. So that's what's helped both of us understand each other a lot better. I can appreciate her more now than when I was much younger, which is a good thing.
Yeah. All right. Jessica, you want to top everything off here with number 40?
Yes, I will. Numero 40. A loud voice isn't always the most powerful one. As someone known as the silent one for all of my childhood, I've learned that making a statement that matters doesn't mean you have to speak loudly or shout. I witnessed a lot of shouting matches in my life, and none of them brought anything useful when trying to solve conflict. Yes, most of us are guilty of shouting at some point in our lives, but staying calm and saying what we want to say with confidence and clarity is the key to being heard. That is quite a sign off. I like that.
People tend to yell and shout when they want you to hear them and they want to prove they're right, but like the tone of voice is not going to help.
No,
I
of course
think
not.
you're more likely to get where you want to be, speak your piece if you're sitting down in a mature conversation and just talk back and forth. And I come from a family of shouters. So, and I'm not a shouter. Thankfully, I can get there if you like, obviously, anybody can get there. But again, it all leads back to the noise anxiety too. When people shout, it tends to make me anxious. So I don't think shouting is the answer. I think sometimes, yeah, we're shouting to feel powerful, but it's not really going to do what we intend. I went from not talking at all to talking normally, and I can tell you that shouting is not the way to go.
Yeah, I'm a shouter.
I'm a shouter.
Yeah, there's that.
When you shouted, did the person you were shouting at, did they ever say, "Yeah, I hear you. That's right. You're right." Like in a serious
My
way.
husband does every day.
Not to just shut you up, but in a serious way. Like hardly ever. Like you would never look Stephanie's trying to prove me wrong, coming up with something in her head. But no, honestly, the key is just to have a conversation. And again, you can be loud and shout from the rooftops, but if you're wrong about something, you're wrong. And if you can talk in a normal tone and if you're right, you're going to be the louder one, so to speak. That's how I see it. It's okay to shout as long as you know that's not making you right.
Yeah, but I am right.
Always.
Right, Robin?
That's right.
Okay, ladies, I want to thank you so much for joining me for this very special episode. It's a comeback episode for In the Know with Erin Glow. Celebrating 40 years of the lessons I've learned and 40 years being alive and all the experiences I've been through and meeting you guys throughout the decades of my life. And shout out to Lori. She had to leave early, but shout out to her as well. Thank you to her for coming on. And I just want to end the podcast episode with a special question for my guests. Now, I shared my 40 most important lessons throughout the 40 years that I've learned. So I just want to ask you guys, what's one important lesson that you have learned in your lifetime so far that you want to share with the listeners? And Robin, we'll begin with you.
Hi, I guess I've learned that a lot of what I've learned needs to be unlearned, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it is.
Jessica?
For me, it is every single thing that you want or want to achieve. And that can be anything from, calmness in your life and confidence in your decisions, goals you might want to meet and success. Like every single thing starts with you or me in my case. Everything.
Good one. And Stephanie?
Accepting who I am and loving me.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing those. I hope they've helped the listeners. I hope everything we talked about today has helped the listeners. And you guys can always reach out. My email, Erin@eringlow.com. If you have any questions for our guests, I can pass them along. Or if you want to comment on anything they said that you can relate to, let me know and I'll pass along the message because I feel like it's always good to know when we make a difference. So, again, I want to thank you, Robin, my dear cousin. Met me in the first decade.
I did.
Jessica met me in the second decade, my wonderful friend for all these years. And Stephanie met me in the third decade, wonderful friend as well, all these years later. And Lori as well met me in my fourth decade of life. And she's great as well and taught me a lot. And at Robin's suggestion, we're going to end this episode with a little toast to 40 years and just, everything I've learned so far. And I hope to learn a lot more and share it with you as time goes on and to continue these beautiful relationships that I have with the people here and other people in my life. Okay, before we do the final toast and end the episode, I do want to share an inspirational quote that's relative to the episode, just like I've done in past episodes. And this quote is about turning 40, and it's from Carl G. Jung. Life really does begin at 40. Up until then, you are just doing research. So we're going to make a little toast with whatever we have to drink here. And I have my Maya Angelou coffee cup.
Agua.
Nice.
Be a rainbow in someone else's cloud. One of my favorite
Sweet.
quotes from her.
Sweet.
All right.
Perfect.
Here's to 40 more.
To 40
40 more.
years.
Cheers.
Well, that's
Cheers.
when we'll do our next podcast.
Yeah. I'll be 80.
And guess who's not going to have gray hair? This
You. All right. Thank you.